capitalism. All of the gains in automation, it goes to the owner class. All you have to do is have everyone be an owner, and now suddenly any gain in automation is a gain for everybody. If you grow just one thing, it may not grow as well as if it grows with another thing. A good example of that is called the Three Sisters method of farming.
There is definitely multi-apartment buildings or multi-families that do passive design.
$100 million that they gave to Joe Rogan that they would kind of be out if they breach contract. Is that a bigger number, or is 2 billion a bigger number?
I don't know,
It's
Zach.
a tough one. I
It's
know,
really hard.
and maybe
Yes.
comparing numbers is not Jeremy's strong suit. Gotta go kill a Jenny.
I still don't think you should kill her. I don't think it's a good idea.
It's a ghost, dude. Welcome back, everybody, to Bread Theory. Tonight we are doing just kind of a whatever sort of miscellaneous Sunday. Amanda is here, crowd favorite. It's opposite, so just keep it in mind. So yeah, we're just gonna talk about politics, talk about our life, just kind of whatever. So, what's been new with us?
Well, we had COVID last week.
Yeah, that was a big one. That's it? That's all you're gonna say about it? How was it for you?
I felt like I swallowed matches, which was how I knew it had to have been something different. So, I was sick Saturday, Sunday is when it started, I'm guessing. And I ended up canceling on some friends. They're not happy about it. But then Monday morning I tested positive. And
Thanks for the cheer, Alyosha. Welcome, Mr. Lister, the Sister 2. Says random things. Go ahead.
so Monday I tested positive. I had a fever. It was like swallowing matches, like lit matches. The worst sore throat I think I've ever had in my life. And I know I sound like I'm being melodramatic, but it was extremely painful. Would not recommend.
Yeah, you were in a pretty bad place.
But recovering now and tested negative finally and going into the highlight of fall week for me. It's our anniversary, my birthday,
Yeah.
peak color.
Yeah, we had a great hike in the state park this weekend. Man, I took so many pictures. Just like peak fall color up in that area of Minnesota. Hasn't quite reached peak down here, but getting pretty close. But yeah, I'm pretty much over COVID as well. I need to retest tonight because yesterday I was still positive, even though I felt better. But yeah, mine was a pretty mild case. I think even milder than Amanda's. I never really got. What was that? Never really got that bad of a case. So, yeah, it pretty much came and went. It was headache, body aches,
Oh yeah, body
low
ache.
energy, coughing. But that was about it. I mean, thankfully, both of us were vaxxed and boosted, so I would say that definitely contributed to the mild and brief case that we both have. Amanda actually lost her sense of taste for a day or two, but thankfully that's come back, right? No tastes have permanently changed, have they?
I can't say that it hasn't permanently changed. Things don't have the like flavor impact they did before. But I can taste them. I can't smell 100% yet. But better.
Yeah.
So
Well, cool. So we also put in an offer in a house this last weekend, but it was a pretty hot commodity. I think they had 3 offers, and this was all the first day that it was on the market. So we did not win, unfortunately. We're still keeping on looking. We tried coming in even $5,000 above asking.
just keep on trucking.
Keep on trucking. But I mean, yeah, and we don't know who won either. You're not allowed to know that until the house has been sold, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, for all we know, there was a big company that swooped in and snapped it up.
We'll pay over asking and pay all the closing costs because it means nothing to us.
Yeah, I mean, that very well may be. But it was disappointing for sure. We really wanted that house. It was like move-in ready, had all the things that we wanted.
It was all we ever wanted.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, fine. I mean, not quite. There was no garage and no dishwasher, which was kind of a buzzkill, but
But it
we
had a
could've worked
parking
with it.
pad that we could have built a structure over.
yeah.
Um,
And somebody wants a garage chicken coop combo, so
Yeah. a garage, chicken coop, maybe even greenhouse combo. But,
well, the chickens can live in the greenhouse.
right. But yeah. Anyway, not to be yet. So we're going to keep on looking. Yeah, it's difficult out there to prove that you are worthy enough to not be a peasant renting from the lords anymore.
But like also the stuff that's in your price range is like one hard sneeze away from falling over. So
Yeah, like, and that tends to be it. It's either perfect, and then in which case we have trouble putting together a big enough offer for it, or it's yeah, it's not in great condition, and then it just sits on the market forever because nobody wants it.
right. And then you got to ask yourself the hard questions like where's the poop?
Mm-hmm. Right. So, I guess we're just gonna watch some random videos and react to them. If anyone has any suggestions.
Steven
people
Crowder
or
having
topics.
a breakdown over a
Oh yeah, he went completely bonkers because Velma is now in the latest version is confirmed a lesbian. So he's losing his shit because a fictional character has come out as lesbian.
All right,
Pretty bad.
Who's
Do you
that
want to
hurting?
watch? Do you want to watch that one?
let's do it.
All right. Let's pull it on up. Let's see here.
Speaking of rabbit holes, Steven Crowder can bring people down some deep ones.
Oh yeah.
So Velma from Scooby-Doo is gay. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have put a trigger warning before that because this has rocked conservative media to their core. Now, I was a Scooby-Doo dabbler. I feel like I've understood.
That sounds vulgar.
I'm also pretty sure that's like a weed strain, but that's
There's everything's a weed strain.
Yeah,
Everything's
yeah.
like a Scooby weed strain now.
So in many ways, I am a Scooby-Doo dabbler.
Yeah.
But like I always,
Snacks.
yeah,
Jinkies.
Zoinks, Velma's a lesbian. I always thought that she was coded gay, right? Am I wrong about that?
Over the
It's
years,
think it
arguable.
was-
I think I think you can make the argument even
I feel-
confirmation.
this won't surprise anybody, but I've watched a lot of Scooby-Doo, a lot of the various iterations of Scooby-Doo, and a lot of the various crossovers. And I think over the canon, over the years, people have, especially towards the earlier episodes, like headcanon-wise, like Velma was a lesbian for a lot of people. Then they made her more explicitly straight in like the movies where she dated like Seth Green's character in the second live-action movie. And then she was dating like Shaggy in one of the cartoons before she came out in that cartoon previously as a lesbian. And then like now they sort of just more fully embraced that. So it's been a decently like slow transition. This is not the first time like she's been an out lesbian in the media.
Or is it reverse cultural appropriation? For that high-level discussion, I bring you Steven Crowder, who is the exact kind of person who would be the villain in the Scooby-Doo movie, where
Steven
you
Crowder? I believe
you
so.
pull off the mask, and it was, I'm sure, some like sort of old racist mask that he'd be wearing in this instance. And Oh no, it's even worse. You have to see Steven Crowder's face.
I like ghost mammy. Like maybe he's like a ghost mammy, like haunting some sort of like IHOP that has like gold buried under it.
And I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for your meddling kids. And that
If it weren't for the
dog.
And that
LGBTQ community.
lesbian, then that lesbian Velma. But here he's upset. So
Okay. So look,
Come on.
here's the macro. I don't care if you want to have a lesbian character.
Right.
Now, there is a problem.
Sure.
When you have
Yeah, you do, Steven. He complains about literally every person who is not just a straight white cis person. So that I'm already out of the gates with lies.
His wife is a foodie.
Yeah.
All she does is share pictures of her favorite foods and tries to make stuff healthier.
I see. Well, at least she keeps the politics out of it.
Why does he wear a gun holster? But
Yeah, I don't know if he actually has guns in those holsters either. He just, it's like his security blanket. Like, you know how Linus has his little blue blanket that he carries around with him and it makes him feel
yeah,
secure. That's his. Like, he can't go anywhere without gun holsters.
you know,
'cause
other people wear like a weighted vest or something.
I guess that just provides the right squeeze on his body, and it just calms him right down. It's like getting a thunder jacket for a dog or something.
You know, that's usually a Spectrum-y sign.
I mean, it could be, and you know, I wouldn't make fun of him if that were the
No,
case, but
of course not. But I'm just saying, like, that tight pressure is like neurodivergent.
yeah. So, I guess that's the story there. Yeah, he claims it's just to make it more fashionable to do so that everyone is. I guess he just wants the Wild West again, where people have, like, you know, 6 shooters on their hips and spurs, and anyone could kill anyone at a moment's notice. That to him is the picture of safety.
I should put spurs on
Yeah.
my sneakers.
Just like the Wild West, how safe it was, especially for people that didn't have a lot of power politically.
when you have people who are gay or lesbian, which is atypical, and by that I mean, you know, it's always been about 2% of the population. Now it's claimed to be
2%? No, that's
That's not true.
that's not true. That's just a lie. No, it's. I mean, I remember even when I was in like high school and stuff, the stats were at like, you know, somewhere between 15 and 20%, maybe 10% at the lowest.
Let's look.
But yeah, we can look right now. But yeah, he's just lying. I'm sure he's discounting a lot of people who are just trenders in his mind, but you can't do that.
Because of things like bisexuality and asexuality and other alphabet mafia things, it is estimated at currently 23.6%.
Okay, so yeah.
If
so
we're
1 in 5
encompassing
people
everyone.
have, you know, identify as one of the letters in the LGBTQIA
Alphabet mafia.
plus. I don't think that's probably a good way to put it.
That's what I was told by one.
Oh, by one. Oh, okay. Okay.
Alright. I'm
You said it when
sorry
you-
if that is inaccurate, but I was invited by a member of the gay community to use that acronym.
Alphabet mafia.
Actually, 2.
Okay.
So I apologize.
Ah. Welcome, James. Good to see you.
Pepperoni rolls.
Working on the Hillbilly Mobile next to the road. Okay. Well. Yeah. Still haven't tried pepperoni rolls.
He's
someday,
gonna
though.
tomorrow.
Maybe.
LGBTQ, AIP, and that includes queer and bisexual.
But
But
can
a
you
small
pause it?
percentage of the
Oh, that's right. And he and as Steven Crowder puts in there, he adds the P on, which is for pedo. He just tried to sneak that one right in there.
Pedialyte drinker. We're on.
I understand that.
Oh.
PDF file, if you will. Anyway, as though that is a legitimate part of LGBTQIA community, which it's not. No one recognizes it as such, but he just wants to make them all sound icky. Yeah, even though or maybe that was Matt Walsh. He was saying something creepy about teenagers earlier. But anyway.
Bullshit.
I'm sorry, that's not true. I've seen most estimations put it fairly squarely at 10%.
Yeah, I like the idea that we were accurately measuring it in like 1874.
Yeah, I'm going to voluntarily say that I'm queer to this
Charles
pollster.
Darwin doing some like sexuality surveys back in the day.
You're right. Okay.
population. So it necessitates a conversation with kids. Hold on a second. What is that? Why is a woman making out with a woman? Why are they having a romantic relationship? Because it doesn't necessitate a sexual follow-up question if you just see a man and a woman, because that is the norm.
Right.
It does if it's atypical. Kids ask questions, so I don't think it should be ejected into kids shows. Yeah.
Why does it necessitate a sexual follow-up question if it's a same-sex couple? Like, oh, but they kiss because they love each other. How is that any different than saying, oh, that man and that woman kiss because they love each other? That's it. You move on. It's not. Oh, but why? Because that's atypical. Mother and father, why are you telling me things that are atypical? Like, no one thinks that way except Steven Crowder.
But also, like, what is it your business if it's two consenting persons or four consenting persons?
Right. Yeah. Well,
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He just, because it's different, then it's got to be weird, and we can't talk about anything that's weird or different.
We should talk about stuff that's so we can normalize it.
Even though, as right, and even though as things get just normalized in being seen, it doesn't become so weird. It's not so strange then. It's not something that a child would never encounter otherwise and never think about. And then really that's the underlying thing here, is he thinks that if children know about homosexuality, then they may become a homosexual themselves.
But that's not how that
Which is terrible.
works.
Oh, of course not. That's not how that works, because, if that were the case, then in a time when there was zero homosexual relationships presented in mainstream culture, everyone would just turn out straight.
But that's not how it works.
But that's not how it works.
Can you turn the air off? Actually, it's a bit cold.
Oh, okay. There we go.
But also, like, I don't know. I know
So-
a lot of people are just raised differently, but I was always raised to, like, ask questions because it shows people that you care
Sure.
and you're curious, and it's better to hear it from your people than others, but also, like, who cares?
Yeah, right?
It's not impacting you personally. What is it to you? And again, I've been hit on by my fair share of lesbians.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Lesbians take rejection better than straight men do.
Yeah, yeah. And you're telling me that being hit on by them it melt your soul internally and turn you into a quivering, emotionally unstable person.
I was already that way before that happened.
So it didn't harm you in the least, is what you're saying.
Right. And
Yeah.
you know what? When I said, I'm so flattered, thank you so much, but I'm actually straight.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, no
Yeah.
problem. It's nice chatting
Pretty
with
easy.
you. Walked away.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Republicans.
was like, oh, but we can chat. I'm like, you don't have to leave. I'm just telling you I'm not going to make out with you or leave with you.
Right. Right. Ali says that the Republicans just want to win the culture war. And you're right, because that's really all they have left. They don't have any new ideas for sure, and that kind of runs counter to conservatism altogether. They don't have a way, listen to the likes of like Jordan Peterson always throwing his hands up. Oh, there's no solution to this crisis. Ultimately, it's just intractable, and we'll never know. We can never know an answer.
Crime of being.
It's just a crime of being. So,
But, like, they'll never win the culture world because they're not cultured.
well, I mean, even in places where they score cultural points or whatever, eventually they lose. This is the life of a conservative. Is just on the long enough timeline, just winning forever or losing forever. Excuse me, never winning, ultimately, because as information spreads, their puffed up, air-filled lies, they just get deflated real easily. And, people don't put up with hearing about it time and time and time again. And eventually their ideas just fall out of fashion until the point they're relegated to things like slavery, racism, stuff that there's a pretty broad consensus is not cool and not something that we want to shape our society around anymore. But eventually it'll be all this stuff, this gay panic things eventually will just wither away as we now have had legalized same-sex marriage in this country for more than 5 years now, anyway.
Well, with the way they're going after women's rights, that'll be the next
Let's
thing,
see,
because that falls under that same.
Let's see when it was
Sorry. Ooh, sparkly.
Yeah. Okay, so 2015, Supreme Court struck it down. So yeah, it's been 7 years now that that same-sex marriage has been legal across the U.S. And guess what? Straight people still get married. The sky didn't fall. It didn't devalue anyone's marriage, and nothing that they were stoking fears about ended up coming to pass. All that happened was, wedding planners now have more clientele.
Well, I was actually, when I was in college, I did a report on the fiscal benefits of legalizing gay marriage.
Yeah.
And 25% bump to the economy because gay people are getting married, getting divorced, buying property, together.
Yeah, adopting
together.
All those sorts of things, for sure. So, yeah, and that's every one of their myths, everything that they ever stoke fear about. Miscegenation, that you can't have race mixing and stuff like that. Eventually, once it became widespread and common, miscegenation.
I've never heard that word
Never
before.
heard of anti-miscegenation laws?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, it means no race mixing. Miscegenation is the mixing of races. But there was a time when that was so taboo that they claimed the sky was going to fall, the society was going to come unraveled if we allow race mixing and all this stuff. Now it's common enough that everyone sees that it has not come to pass, any of the things they say. So that idea just gets thrown on the dustbin of history. You're always going to have some cranks who like to dredge up the worst ideas of the past and play around with them, but they're never really, they're never going to catch on again. So thanks for the follow, proud anti-vaxxer. I wouldn't be so proud about that if I were you, but anyway, that's your own title to bear. But yeah, all these things that they whip up and stoke fear about.
Caught in the bathroom and our abortion.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and that tends to be the case too, especially with people like Steven Crowder who lash out continuously against the same sorts of things they see in society. More often than not, it's just one big projection. They're afraid of something within themselves. So I don't know. I would never speculate that someone themselves is gay who has not come out and said so, but there's a distinct possibility that they're at least afraid of being gay or afraid of being seen as non-manly. I mean, that's a given with Steven Crowder, having to have his security blanket, gun holsters. He has probably the weakest, view of himself being masculine of maybe any of the online right, because he has to have so many props to just prove how manly he is.
It's just interesting. I feel like most people don't have a problem with abortion. Most people don't have a problem with alphabet rights, right? Because, no. I mean, I think what it is just these things are open to you. These things are open. Right. If you so feel or choose, or your brain chemistry sends you a certain way, these things are open and available to you. And I don't get the problem of the right so much. And I get it's just their thinking and their fears and whatnot. But it's no one's forcing anyone to be gay. No one's forcing anyone to get an abortion. These things are simply available to the public should the need be there.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's the huge difference between the right and the left. The right wants everyone to live a certain way, look a certain way, do a certain thing. and have very rigid societal standards that you can never transgress, because they believe that brings security and order, and it makes them feel comfortable in the world. And if not everyone's doing it, then well, eventually everyone's going to do something different, and no one will do it anymore. No one will ever go to church again if you allow people not to go to church. Well,
But not everybody
obviously
wants
that's
to
true.
go to church.
And obviously that's not true. People still go to church today. Most people identify as one religion or another, despite atheism being legal since, I'm not even sure when it was officially.
1995.
1995?
I'm guessing.
Okay.
Put your bets in. Let's look it up.
No, I don't want to look that up right now.
Why?
It doesn't matter.
It does matter.
Fine, you look it up then.
I'm gonna.
You can be my sidekick that looks everything up for me. Jamie, you can be my Jamie to my Joe Rogan. Oh my God. You don't even know what I'm talking about.
I don't want to know who you're talking about.
Joe Rogan has his producer Jamie look shit up for him when he's losing an argument. Anyway, so that's the right. They want to control everything for fear that if they don't, it will all just unravel and no one will believe in the things that they believe anymore. Which doesn't really say a lot about how much faith they put in their own ideas, that they can just stand on their own, that people have to actually be pushed into believing them, or at least carrying them out publicly.
1961.
Okay.
And there's 7 states that have bans on people being atheist.
Really? Still have bans on that?
Yes.
Oh shit! Really?
Let me guess. Are they in the South?
Okay. I don't want to do that. I want to get away from that sort of South bashing, because ultimately it's a classist sort of thing. I know it's easy to do, and I'm still guilty of it myself. It's a tough habit to break. So I'm not trying to judge you or anything about it, but I just don't want to do
judging.
I'm not judging. I'm just saying I would like to steer away from the South bashing in that way. I mean, for their policies, fine. But
atheists can't hold office.
Oh, can't hold office.
In Tennessee, North Carolina. Where else? Still.
Anyway, that's ridiculous. yeah, Alabama. But yeah, I don't think that's helpful in terms of class solidarity or anything like that. And we should be more mindful of that. And if we're gonna mock any sort of accent or dialect or whatever, it should be more refined and British. I can't say that word very well. Patrician accents among us, the Harvard set and whatnot. That makes more sense to me, because those people deserve to be mocked for being elitist assholes and wanting to own everything and distribute the wealth back to themselves. Anyway, side note, moving on.
The other thing, though, is look, there are plenty of lesbian characters and gay characters. There's not a problem with that.
Okay, so what's your problem with this one?
Right, the BBC has it as low as references available at louderscarter.com. 2021, they said 12% of all U.S. TV characters were LGBTQ. And I've actually seen that number as high as 16%. Let's call it 12, 14%. It's still at least more than double, likely triple that of the pop. There are plenty of...
No. 20%. So it's not even it's about half of representation at this point. Half, it's not at parity yet, even with the population. So you're just lying again.
Of gay and lesbian characters. They're just not as popular. So if we're going to bitch about appropriation, why do you need to take a straight character and make her lesbian? Just go make your own. It's not our fault people don't want to watch it, just because we don't want to watch a bunch of cartoon women shop at Bass Pro.
Nope. What does that even mean?
Oh, he's just going for stereotypes.
Uh-huh. You want to watch a bunch of cartoon men shop at Bass Pro Shop?
No, he's making a comment about lesbians shopping at the Bass Pro Shop.
Oh, is that a lesbian stereotype? I was not even aware of that.
Yeah, or like shopping at Gander Mountain or Cabela's. I was like, I shop at Gander Mountain and Cabela's because I hike.
I would imagine that Stephen Carter does too, but anyway,
It's
as though once you have a gay character, that all they can do is stereotypically gay things, and then just bring up gay, gay, gay. Every scene that they're possibly in, it
well,
can never
well,
just be
that's
something that's referenced once in a while, the way that straight characters' relationships are. It has to be front and center because that's their character, and then they have no other dimensions to them, right?
I mean, I think it's so much more complex than that. Look at like what's her face in Dairy Girls. She's not shopping at Bass Pro Shop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what is her name? Fine.
It's been too long
it's
since
not
I've seen that show.
important.
I don't remember.
Or like gay men all being a certain way. That's not true either.
Well, yeah, what was that? We just watched that Thor: Love and Thunder, which meh, kind of a mid tier, even as the MCU goes. But the character, I don't know if her name is. No, her name's not Valkyrie, is it? Or she is the head of the Valkyries anyway.
Yeah.
Happens to be a lesbian. It gets referenced in brief conversation,
Right.
maybe a couple of times throughout the movie. And then that's it. And then she has other dimensions to her character. That's only one facet. The way that Thor's love life is only referenced when it is germane to the plot at the time.
Right.
So,
Well, I think they did a nice job with that.
yeah.
Like, I just liked the pro Jane joke. I like Jane.
What? I don't
And
know.
in the movie, I think that was one of the points where it was like he was asking her what she thought of Jane, and he's like, they're talking about her. Like,
Oh.
He's like, I'm pro Jane, and she goes, I'm pro Jane too, and then she laughs,
Okay, yeah, that's
and that
funny.
was the end of it. Like, it was
Yeah.
just a cute little cheeky moment.
I mean, they make it out like it's this, we have to make a big deal and go out of our way to make sure everybody knows in every scene that this character's gay. It's inescapable. It's just the only part of their personality that matters anymore and stuff like that. And that's never the case. It was not the case in Lord of the Rings when there were, black elves that they had to just pause, turn to the camera every scene and go, by the way, we are black elves. We're not white elves. So you're not just seeing a bad color correction on your TV. And by the way, we're going to say more things about being black elves. Like, they want to have such a controversy to whip up, but it never amounts to
What they
much
wanted
of
to be.
anything. And they just end up, I don't know, it just makes them look dumb, I guess. Like
Yeah,
they want so badly to be oppressed, to have something to whine about, and it just doesn't come and it doesn't happen.
well, it's just silly, really. Like,
Yeah, no, Republicans definitely don't help. That's because, like I say, that's all they have left. That's all they have left to talk about. What else are they going to talk about? We need tax cuts.
tax cuts for who?
Right. Or for the job creators. Oh, the ones that are not creating jobs now, even though they've had record profits.
And they're
For the past
actually
couple of years,
terminating now businesses
yeah,
are laying people
actually
off.
still
like
laying
crazy.
people off while claiming no one wants to work.
Yeah.
Like, all of their talking points have been laid bare as just false at this point. So
Like what?
all of their actual policy stuff, I don't see how anyone would ever take them seriously on any of it.
Oh, I'm
You
gonna
know.
cry.
Trump and his stupid border wall, which the parts that he got built got blown over in a storm, like the first big storm that happened on the border, and didn't keep a single person out. Like that was his signature plan that he put all of his stuff on.
Yep.
Didn't
I
actually
know.
work as a policy
Right.
because none of their policies do. Their only real policy is take money from the poor and aggregate it into the hands of the people that already have it. And that's it. It's just that they can't say that out loud because that's not going to end up being a popular policy. And as poor an excuse of democracy as we have, we still appear to have elections that are not completely, fabricated. Like, there actually are consequences to the way people vote. So you can't just come out and say any old thing and get elected. You have to at least pretend to care about the people that you're going to serve.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm just taking my earrings out because they're bothering me.
I suppose.
Well, like, let's talk about that pro-life thing, because it's like, I get really mad about this, Alyosher. Like, it's just pro-birth. It's pro-birth. There's, like, if we were truly pro-life, why aren't we doing, like, universal free pre-K? Universal free childcare? Imagine how much money that would put into the economy if parents weren't having to each work a job to pay for daycare.
Why aren't we making nutritious food just free? Like fruits, vegetables, basics to bake with, all that stuff. Why are we not just making that free if we really care about life? I mean, I care about that. I care about people who are born having a as much of a stable platform as possible so that they can actually make decisions in their life about what they want to do with it. I care about freedom.
Right.
And they can't claim to care about
excuse me,
about any of that because ultimately their policies say otherwise. You know, they don't really have solutions to anything. It's control and siphon power to the rich.
Right.
So,
It's like, what do you have to say about all the kids that are in foster care? What do you say about the adoption process being as difficult as it is? What do you have to say for these things? Nothing.
well, and you would think too that if the Democrats really stood for something diametrically opposed to that, to what the Republicans do, where they actually wanted to implement the policies they at least give lip service to, that they would be thrilled to have, just do away with the Republicans and go to a party on their left to fight with instead. Wouldn't that be better, at least if we're going to only have two parties? Why not do like what happened when the Republicans came to power and swept out the Whigs? Get rid of the oldest, most conservative party and bring in the next one. So now the Republicans are not the oldest party anymore. I guess they never were, but still, the Democrats want to get the oldest ideas out so they can at least spar with some newer ones.
Mm-hmm.
But they like having their little buddy and their partner in crime and controlled opposition, and really their most comfortable position is being that impotent opposition, so they can stand on principle but never really be expected to deliver on the things they talk about.
Right.
But people could do otherwise, if people just stopped voting Republican, started voting some more progressive party, Party for Socialism and Liberation, Green Party, even the Communist Party USA would be a better opponent to the Democrats than the Republicans.
The
That's so
Democrats
funny.
Are just lazy.
Did he just casually say that like the people just don't like gay characters as much? What is the evidence for that?
The idea that the increase in
Billy
gay
Eichner
representation
makes
on
my life.
television, that's
Yeah.
because we are exiting a
fun.
time where there's a whole bunch. It was clouded in bigotry, and
Yeah.
people are still processing as a society. We're still processing how to include people like that. Like it's basically, if it's disproportionate, it's because we're making up for lost time.
I feel like it's because it's Velma. Honestly, I'm just gonna be the person who says it. People find Velma hot, and there's like a subsection of people online who, when you tell somebody that they find hot, even if it's a cartoon character, like a legitimate someone who is not real, and you tell them that like they're a lesbian, and the person who finds them hot is a guy, they somehow feel like they've had something taken away from them. You can see this when Jordan Peterson talks about like Elliot Page's transition. Like, they have had, because this woman, fake or real, is no longer available to them, even in their fantasy, I guess, it's aggrieving them in a way that I personally am unable to to replicate in myself because I didn't, I think we've all can admit that Velma is, a
Velma's
10
hot.
out of 10.
Linda
She's
Cardellini is, Linda Cardellini is a beautiful woman, yeah.
Velma's the high tier taste of the Scooby-Doo. If you're going to have a crush on the Scooby-Doo characters, Velma is the one to have a crush on,
Yes.
So we can admit
Not
that, but I think
Daphne,
it's a little weird to
she's
take it this
stupid.
far to be
Oh yeah, Daphne's Daphne's a member of the upper class. She's got a rich father and stuff like that. So
And Freddie.
Freddie too. No, he's not fooling anyone with his neck handkerchief. We all know what yacht clubs he belongs to. It's what?
Now who's being inappropriate?
It's ones that exclude people because they're not wealthy owners.
I thought you were trying to say that he was. Never mind.
No, I wasn't saying anything else. Yeah, it's kind of yacht clubs that used to explicitly keep out people of color, but now they can't do that anymore. So they just make you have to be a billionaire or something like that. That's where Freddie's coming from.
I see.
Anyway, and the idea that Scooby-Doo is like explicitly for children, it never was the case. Sorry, but it's made for stoner kids in like junior high and high school. Not small children, as much as they may like it too. All the jokes, all the weed stuff, that's all put in there for stoner kids, and stoner adults. No.
Scooby Dooby Doo.
Yeah, Scooby Dooby Doo, like it's right in there. Eating some Scooby snacks.
Zoinks!
Right, it's not thickly veiled, the drug references.
like, Velma being a lesbian makes it harder for me to imagine us like being in a long-term relationship as a guy. Like, it's a little weird, I mean, you can reference that kids are going to be confused by Velma making out with women, but that doesn't seem to be like, a real argument.
Also, like,
But
I think
oh,
Oh, I thought I was pausing so you could say it.
oh, I was gonna say I saw Allie Osher's comment about Velma being a nerd. It was like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, nerds are hot.
Yeah, I think that would be much more egregious if they made her character not a nerd anymore.
Right.
Like then
Made her
then I would
stupid.
question why are you doing that? In what in what service are you making her not a nerd?
Right.
Like if she was
Or
just
like-
another stoner or something like that instead, like yeah, I'd be like, what the hell? What's going on? No need for that.
Or if she were more like Daphne.
Right. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, I think we've covered this pretty well. Let's see what. Oh, did you want to?
No, it's okay.
If you have.
What about the scary Russian man
Um,
who talks about how women need to be,
So I don't think they go back to Steven Crowder at all. So
or
that's
Alex
this.
Chu?
Oh, I don't want to do Alex. I hate doing Alex Chu.
All right.
He's just so gross.
I know, but that's part of the funniness.
No, but it's like mega cringe. I can't take it right now.
Fine. You pick.
Let's see.
Though, audience, if you're intrigued by Alex Chu, I highly recommend that you go watch it because your mind will just like implode on itself.
Just look up like Alex Chu
Infinity rings.
in immortality rings.
Whatever.
He's made rings that basically just have a permanent magnet in them that you wear on your pinkies, and he says makes them physically immortal. So he will never age, even though he's 50 and he could pass. He's like 53 or 52. He could pass for in his 40s, but he's been selling the ring since he was 20, and let's just
also
say he
says-
doesn't look 20 anymore.
He also like cops up to having a drinking problem. And
Oh yeah, he talks about how terrible his life is. No one wants to sleep with him. He drinks every day. He's just an alcoholic. He doesn't have any friends. He doesn't go anywhere or do anything. He just works from home.
like the world owes him.
Yeah, like he's just always trolling for sympathy. And it's really gross. He's just
That's
a really
why
gross
he likes.
person.
That's why he likes stepmommy stuff.
Oh yeah, so I don't even want to
Hey.
get into that. It's just
All
so
right.
gross.
So while you're finding a video, I want to do a product plug for y'all because
Oh, okay.
we're not being paid by these people, but we should be.
Yeah.
This is called Liquid Death
Oh, jeez.
Severed Lime. It is.
It's good water. Oh, sorry. Steal your thunder there by saying it's good. Continue. I'll shut up. My God.
It is an assortment of waters, sparkling and still, some essence with things like berry or lime, and it has electrolytes in it. They are divine. They're like, 20 calories. Just a teeny weeny little bit of added sugar, just enough to like take it up a notch. It is fabulous. It does look like beer. I have maybe been pulled over once while having one of these in the car, but they are just water. I have found them at Kowalski's. That's all I've ever seen them at. I highly recommend you try them. I think the lime is the best.
Yeah, I would say that.
Berry is the second.
Is that okay? Can I put my opinion in now?
Fine.
Okay, I like the lime one the best. Berry's okay too, though.
Thought you like the mango.
Mango's alright. Let's see. What do we got?
Oh, my watch is charged already. Cool.
Yeah, she got the new iPhone.
It's-
Or an Apple Watch, whatever the hell it's called.
Thanks.
Sorry. What do we have going on?
The top of the hour ad break.
Yeah, on top of the other 60-second ad break. You can avoid that ad break by becoming a member or giving me a subscription or subscribing with your Amazon Prime. What do we feel like? I don't even know.
He's checked out.
I'm not checked out. I nothing's really grabbing
I
me.
was not his anticipated guest, so I think he's a little disappointed.
Oh my God. I always appreciate you being on the show.
It's
I don't know
okay.
what Caleb Malvin's even doing these days.
I
Since
don't
his
know.
disgrace.
A storm is coming? Wait, he's at CPI?
Communist Party International Conference. Yeah, that's like his own little thing.
Wait, he made that up?
I think so. Or that's the one that he got kicked out of? I don't remember.
Probably.
Wait, a storm is coming? I guess, I mean, there's probably no place left for him to go but get into, like, QAnon conspiracy bullshit. So let's see what this is about. It's 50 minutes. We're going to skip around quite a bit.
And now let me introduce...
Actually, let's see if there's a shorter version. Here's a 13 one. No, that's not him, though. All right. Let's get into
And
it.
now let me introduce Caleb Moffat.
Blah, blah, blah.
Look at me,
Arabia,
Mommy.
along
We
the
don't-
port of Hodeida.
Here we go.
Take this off of here. Just get to stay.
Yeah, that doesn't look staged
All right,
at
I
all.
want everyone to stay standing and stretch. Just stretch as much as you can. It's been a long day.
Just stretch
It's been a
as
long
much as
day.
you can.
Stretch. Just get a good stretch.
This is from a
All
month
right,
ago.
very, very good. Now you can sit down. I'm gonna take this off of here.
Like that he shoved
It's
a
been long
bunch of
day.
crap in his
I've heard a lot of
pockets.
speeches and a lot of presentations. We don't know how often
Did he?
we're
Is he
gonna
just
have
so
the
happy to
opportunity
be
have
there,
conferences like this.
talking
It's
about
important that we
himself?
get as much in as we possibly can. So thank you for being here. I know it's late. I'm going to try to not take too long because I know we've all got places to go. We're tired. We've been working hard. But I want to just point out.
So, 45 minutes later,
really a
he
great thing
shuts up
that
finally.
CPI is not an online organization.
This is really boring.
Having gatherings like this, where people come together, where we're among friends, we're among allies, where we see that we're not alone, where we don't get stuck in that crazy internet world. You know, I tell people Twitter isn't real. Did you know that? Twitter is not real. Facebook isn't real. But what we're doing today here, this is real.
Wow.
Pat himself on the back.
So I want us all to now take a deep breath,
He seems like such a smarmy person.
He is. Oh, he's very slimy.
Breathe out. Let's do it one more time. Take a deep breath. Breathe in.
Are you doing his breath exercises?
When we breathe, that's a pattern.
Can you get
And
sucked
patterns
in?
are very important to human beings.
Tell me what to do,
Patterns give us
Ginger.
security in a world that is often very, very insecure. Right? Patterns, the ability to know what's coming, is one thing
Patterns.
human beings
Wow.
depend on. Think about your heartbeat.
You're one of those
Heartbeat is a
people.
pattern.
It's a
Paying attention to
pattern.
patterns, being able to know what's coming, that's something that's very, very important for human beings and trying to relate to the world and trying to find some sense of security.
How's that going for
Today
you,
is
Caleb?
Saturday.
It looks to be just
I
fine,
don't know what
unfortunately.
tomorrow will bring, but I do know
Always another
every
sucker to
Saturday in my whole life
sell his books for him
and every Sunday in my whole life
for less than minimum
followed
wage.
by a Monday. And every Monday in my whole life's been followed by a Tuesday. We don't know what the coming Sunday will be like, but we do know that we can count on it coming.
What are these
And that's
red
one
berets,
level
too?
of security that we do have. And that's very important to us. And if you look throughout human history, a lot of the way human beings have dealt with patterns and trying to find patterns in the universe, trying to find things that bring us security, one of the ways we've dealt with it is by telling stories. Right? We know about some of the stories from the Native American tradition, some of the stories from ancient Greece and Rome, some of the stories from China. Stories that give us a sense of security. For example,
Why does
here's
he
a
have a
story
chin
for you.
strap?
A brief one.
I mean, it's a common way to hide a weak chin, and he doesn't have the strongest of jawlines. I don't really fault him for that. There's plenty of ways to criticize Caleb without his physicality.
No, I just. All right. You know what? I'm going to go there. As a woman, I think that's weird. To not have a mustache. Like, at least go for the goatee.
He usually
At
does have a
least-
goatee. I don't know why he's shaved off the mustache part at this point. Maybe he's going for more. Well, Lennon had a mustache throughout his life, right?
Sorry, that was a weak attack, friends, but I don't care for it. Just commit to the full circle or get out.
Yeah. No, yeah, Lennon had that mustache the whole time. It was not connected in a full goatee.
That's fine. It just, if you have one, I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't like just the bottom part. But
Like, just the bottom seems odd to me. People having a mustache,
Ted
like
Cruz.
Noah Samson, that's fine. He's committed to the mustache. It's there.
oh, Ted Cruz, one of the worst beards out there. And no matter what he does, he can't hide just how disgusting of a person he is. Ted Cruz.
Maybe
That
he's
is-
just trying to be obvious about it.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, and yeah, to answer your question, Allie, I have heard of Russell Brand. I know he's coming up again in the news, so maybe we'll look at him because this is just.
Yeah.
How
I'll
does
be
he even
back.
have this much of a following?
I
I'm
need
sorry.
to get water and stand up for just a
Oh,
moment.
sure.
Ow.
Like
Do you
this.
need anything?
No, I'm okay.
So
Thanks. He's just so supremely uncharismatic. Like, what has he even said so far? Thank goodness we're not online. We're now. He spoke for like 3 minutes so far and said
Absolutely nothing.
0 besides self-congratulatory stuff.
The story goes that there was a greedy Wall Street banker who was working really late one night at his office. He was working really, really late one night at his office. And all of a sudden, the devil appeared to him. Out of nowhere, in a cloud of smoke, the devil appeared, and he said, "Sir, I am here to offer you a deal." And he said, "Okay, go ahead." The devil said, "I will triple your profits for the next 10 years. He said, "That sounds pretty good. What do you want in exchange?" He said, "All I want in exchange is the soul of your wife and children to burn in hell for all eternity." And the capitalist, banker, billionaire was silent. There was dead silence. The devil said to him, "Will you take the deal?" Dead silence. The devil said, "Will you take the deal?" Dead silence. The devil said, "All
what's he
right,
gonna
you gotta
say?"
make a decision right now. Will you take the deal?" And the capitalist said, "No." The devil said, "Why won't you take the deal?" He said, "I've been in business a long time. No deal is ever this good."
Oh, what a banger!
And why is that story funny? It's funny
It's not.
because it points to a higher
That's
truth.
why.
It points to the reality. We've all seen what this system does to people, how it makes them heartless, how it plays them against each other. It drives this selfishness, driving us all into atomized individuals, breaking down the connection between us. We've seen that, and so that story makes sense. And I'm sure those of you who follow what I do, you all know what I'm about to say next, which is, if I said to you, faster than a speeding bullet, faster than a locomotive, able to leap a tall building in a single bound, look up at the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's... I've talked a lot about how Superman, one of his first adventures was to rescue a group of striking workers, how Superman fought against the Ku Klux Klan during the Second World War to show that racism was just what the Nazis were about and was un-American. I've told you all what the way you say man of steel in Russian and how that wasn't a coincidence. But I also want to point out, and I think it is worth pointing out, that there's more to the reason that I've tried to popularize Superman than simply those historical observations. One of the reasons I've tried to point him out is not just the explicit politics you can find in the early Superman comics, but also the attitude that Superman has. Superman has a smile on his face. Superman is not vengeful.
Dana Carvey would
He's not
be
trying
funny.
to
You're
destroy
right.
anybody. He's not trying to harm anybody. He's not trying to punish people. In fact, Superman doesn't even want to be famous. He lives a humble life as mild-mannered reporter Clark Kent. He doesn't care if anyone ever knows who he is. And he's reluctant. But then, every so often, there's a situation where it looks like a job for Superman, and he's got no choice but to swing into action and do what's needed. When I think about Superman, I think about my grandparents, both of whom fought in the Second World War on both sides. My grandfathers fought in the Second World War. My grandmother was a nurse
Where is
in
the story
Britain
going?
when
I may
the
have to
Battle
skip
of Normandy
around.
was happening and was taking
See if anyone
in
has a
injured
timestamp.
soldiers. And my other grandmother worked in a defense factory making
When does he talk
bullets to
about
go
the
and fight the
storm? At least that
Nazis.
sounded
And when they talk
interesting.
about the greatest generation, the World War II generation, they really incarnated a lot of those values. These are people that had been through the Great Depression. They'd been through all that hardship and suffering. They'd seen people starving on the streets, and they'd organized, and they built unions. And they put Roosevelt in a situation where he had to give them concessions, and he had to enter an alliance with the Communist Party to defeat the fascist threat. And there's a lot we can learn from that generation. And it's tragic that so many of those folks aren't with us anymore, because the knowledge of what they've been through a big capitalist crisis that exploded into a world war, the knowledge of that generation is really valuable. And that's why I know a lot of us have really taken great inspiration when we read the writings of William Z. Foster, when we read the writings of Moishe Olgin, when we read the writings of communist organizers from that period, because what they were facing on a smaller scale is what we're facing now. A global capitalist crisis, fascism on the rise, the danger of a new world war, and that's why I've done my best to try and revive 1980s communism. The principles that built the Communist Party to be an organization of hundreds of thousands of people that gathered in Madison Square Garden.
The color of rage?
The color beige.
Oh, color beige. Yes, he is. His creaky Kermit the Frog voice doesn't do him any credit.
But I actually want to refer to yet another story. And this is a story that any of us
That was such a boring
grew up in
story.
the Christian tradition or the Jewish tradition or the Islamic tradition probably had hammered into our heads when we were kids. And the story is about a man named Noah. And the story is that Noah got a message from God that a giant storm was going to come. That storm would be so massive that it would lead to flooding. And so Noah heard this message about a flood, and he started building an ark, started building a ship so that his family and his people would be safe when the flood came. All right, we've heard this story. And I think it's pretty safe to say that this is a story that is very, very important.
Let's see if we can find something
There's
about.
something in this story,
Maybe this is a storm.
that really speaks to
Yeah,
it.
let's see.
That actually reminds me of a quotation you can find here
That
in the
actually
Little Red Book.
reminds me.
In the Little Red Book by Mao Zedong, they quote Mao's famous essay that he wrote in 1927. He wrote it in 1927. This is what he wrote. In a very short time, in China's central and southern provinces, several 100 million peasants will rise like a mighty storm, like a hurricane, a force so swift and violent that no power, however great, will be able to hold it back. They will smash the trammels that bind them on the road to liberation. They will sweep all the imperialists, warlords, corrupt officials, local tyrants, and evil gentry into their graves. And every revolutionary party and every revolutionary comrade will be put to the test, to be accepted or rejected as they decide. And there are three alternatives: to march at their head and lead them, to trail behind them, gesticulating and criticizing, or stand in their way and oppose them. Every Chinese is free to choose, but events will force you to make the choice quickly. Now, that's Mao Zedong in 1927. What's he saying there? He's saying a storm is coming. A storm is coming, and if we don't take the correct action now, and if we don't put ourselves in the right position, when that storm comes, it's going to blow right all over us. But if we do the right thing, and we get prepared, when that storm comes, everything can change. Right. And if you look at China today, everything has changed.
Wait, did
I'm
someone
sorry.
clap?
We hear so much of this: communism failed, communism never achieved anything. The next time someone says that to you, ask them, what was China like before 1949, and what is China like today? Pretty fair question. And don't tell me, oh, it's all about foreign investment. That's because they became capitalists. Really? Well, there's been a lot of foreign investment in Africa for the past 200 years. How's
Also,
Africa
capitalism eventually ends up crumbling, and I feel like we are on the brink of that currently.
doing? Foreign investment in Central America, how are they doing?
So I guess his whole storm is coming was just that the people are going to rise up and do a revolution or something.
And by diminishing the means whereby the crises are prevented.
Is he supposed to be a
High-tech
leftist? Because
economy
I've
they've
always been
created
really
doesn't have a
confused
place
about
for
what
industrial
his...
workers in it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like him and his ilk have been going through some transformations lately in their branding. One of his close buddies, Infrared, now calls himself a mecha tanky, and he's just gone into the self-parody realm where he's just doing everything absurd. I can see how it has its appeal to people that are just wanting to be nihilist and make jokes about stuff. And then there's his other one, Jackson Hinkle, who started out calling himself or was recently called himself a pat sock, a patriotic socialist, which I think perhaps Caleb got on board with, which to me just sounds like it's literally just one letter difference from Natsock or National Socialist or Nazi, because that tends to be what happens when you have national socialist movements rather than international ones that want to preserve the dominant culture, stomp down anyone who's a threat to that culture. You know the sort of pattern that I'm talking about here.
Like,
So then there was that. But now Jackson calls himself a MAGA socialist, as if Pat
What?
Sock wasn't enough of a contradiction in terms. He now calls himself a MAGA socialist. He wants to. It's socialism for conservatives, and his big thing is that, you know, they make fun of working class Trump voters and stuff like that, and they should be uniting with them and blah 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 blah. It's dumb. He changes his branding every other month. Like, Jackson Hinkle is beyond self-parody.
but you also, like, have to consider, like, we do need to work better on normalizing people, like, changing their mind when they're getting more information. But if you're doing stuff
Right.
like that, it's a very different...
Well, and that's why I say things like I try to steer away from, you know, doing the stereotypical Southern poor accent to represent stupidity and stuff like that.
All right.
Because, well, for one thing, they're not all dumb, and they're not all reactionary. But
Their
even the ones who are
politicians
reactionary,
mostly are.
we want to, and I don't necessarily want them to be at the fore of any movement that we're a part of, but our ideas should appeal to them in some sense, because they are better for everyone that does not own, and they don't own, just like us. So there should be working class solidarity, but you shouldn't give up intersectionality in the process. You shouldn't ever make that sort of a sacrifice, because that's what, second wave and first wave feminists did. They sacrificed the black feminists in order to win the vote for white women. And then they sacrificed them again to get white women into the workplace. And now that sort is like the Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton representation is the end all be all, and it's a good system. It just has to have the right people in the right places, and as soon as we get representation in order, then we'll just have a perfect country, and
Like,
blah blah blah.
Nancy Pelosi's been old enough to retire for quite some time now, and she needs to go.
Absolutely. I mean, she has so much money, she's never going to spend it in the rest of her lifetime. I mean, she's either pushing 80 or she's...
No, she is 80.
Okay, well, so she's got maybe a couple decades to go. She's not going to spend $100 million, whatever it is that she's worth. So, yeah, she just needs to step aside and let
But
someone
also, she's out of touch.
with better ideas. Absolutely, she is. Well, she spends... I used to criticize her, even back in the day, for spending the vast majority of her time fundraising. And that's what she does. I think it's like 2 out of every 3 days of her life, she's got charity events. She's got dinners, fundraising dinners. She has things that are all siphoning money into her campaign, basically. And her supporters back in the middle, well, that's what you got to do to win and stuff like that. And well, I don't think that's necessarily true, for one, and for another. Doing that is not without its toll, and the toll is that you get beholden to all of these corporate interests to the point where you'll kneel in the kente cloth, but that's about as far as you're willing to go to actually make Black Lives Matter in this country.
And this is where I come from on the, politicians should not get funding from big corporations. They should be completely 100,000% dependent on the public. Like Joe Blow, you and me.
I agree.
You can get your donations that way to fund your campaign, but you're not getting a dime from big business. And if you do, you're out. You're automatically
yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think there's any
because
good reason to have corporate donations and corporate money in
corporations aren't people.
Campaigns. No, they're not.
We're treating them like people. They get treated better than people.
In many cases, they have more protections than most people, and
they pay less in taxes.
Sure. So
and it's all it is they get to operate on this self-interest. There's no genuineness or possibility to have to be accountable for yourself.
Yeah.
Gosh, I mean it. If you run on a platform and you announce I'm running because of X, Y, and Z, and you don't achieve a certain percentage of what you went out for, you don't get to go next time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's mean, but
no, not at all. But
you have to have shown effort.
I think that could blow up in your face, because if you are just part of the minority party, you're not going to get anything done. So it's a bit of a high bar.
Effort, right?
Okay, well, that's going to be ambiguous as to what actually counts as effort. But I like the general spirit of what you're saying.
Oh. You're just a woman, you silly girl.
Is that what I said?
Yeah.
It is not what I said. I like the idea of holding politicians accountable. I really do.
Well, then how do you suspect that we do it?
I mean, for one thing, having proportional representation in offices, all offices, instant runoff voting, these things will mean that there's actually a threat for not following through on your promises, because then it's much easier to vote you out than someone else in. And when there's only 2 choices, and one of them is a choice where most voters are never going to make that other choice, that really means there's one choice, which is no choice.
Also, like,
But
what
if there's a
about
bunch, then that really is a threat at that point.
what about ranked choice voting?
Yeah.
And
That's what instant runoff voting is. The same thing as ranked choice.
But also, like, why isn't voting the same across the entire United States? Like, why do individual laws...
The idea is to make it harder to rig the election. I don't know how much truth there actually is.
But I don't think you can.
Right.
Like, true voter fraud is extremely
rare. Absolutely.
Rare. It takes a lot of effort, and even then, it doesn't work. So, I feel like I was going to go off about something else on that, and I got distracted.
Well, instant runoff would help more parties break in, and more parties being able to break into the system and have a voice would mean that there actually is a real threat to not doing what you say, and not just coming from the side that your voters are not likely to ever choose, unless they really just don't know what they believe and are easily swayed by slogans. Most people are going to vote for one side or the other if they vote at all.
If I get one more email from Democrats saying, vote for us and we'll protect abortion.
Yeah.
Okay, you had 50 years and you didn't do jack shit.
Right.
So, like, why give you money now to do what you didn't do for the last 50 years? I shouldn't have to pay you to protect my rights.
I agree. Let's see, there was a good second thought one out recently. Oh yeah, I like this one a lot. Why is everything turning into Uber? That was a good one. Let's watch this.
This episode and
Actually,
others like it
video.
are brought to you by the generous support of my patrons on Patreon. If you'd like to help support my channel and get early access to every video, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/secondthought.
Oh.
This is a video about why Uber and the whole gig economy sucks, and also about how more and more jobs are getting gigified. Since this topic's been floating around in the background for 10 years now, let's start with something recent.
72% of drivers in the US are saying that one of the considerations of their signing up to drive on Uber was actually inflation. Life is getting more expensive. They need to pay extra for their groceries. So on the supply side, we may be actually benefiting from the inflationary environment.
Wow. Imagine bragging about that. People are feeling so desperate that they're willing to do what we offer, which is not technically a job, it is an independent contract. But people are feeling this squeeze so much that they're looking for any way to squeeze a few more dollars out of a paycheck every week.
Gross.
I speaking of someone who did Lyft and Uber for about 3.5, almost 4 years total, I think between the two, it was not a good deal even then. Like, without the ability to deduct for gas, or not for gas, but for mileage, take the mileage deduction, I would have had to pay a whole lot of tax. Even with that, I ended up I would average between 30 and 35,000 a year, and I was doing it full time, and I would do it overnights. I did that for about a year.
Yeah, when we first met.
I was doing overnights, and I was trying to switch back to daytime, because it was just.
I never saw him.
It was hard. It's a hard schedule, but I wanted to get. It was still pretty steady, like. In the last year or two of it, I would sign in to the app, and I would get rides continuously until I decided to sign out. Basically, there would be very few times where I'd have any sort of downtime, and still, I was making I'd make about $100 a day, doing I don't know a 10-hour shift. So literally about $10 an hour, really, and that's including tips too. And that's back when they didn't have fees to pick up at the airport. Now you have to get a special licensure to be able to do that you maintain.
None of this the Uber pays for, by the way.
No, not at all. because you're an independent contractor. So that's the thing. They've outsourced all of the cost of running a taxi company to the taxi drivers themselves, essentially. So all the car washes I was responsible for, and to say that there was no consequence if I didn't get those car washes done is ludicrous, because you would get a lower rating as a driver. They can ding you on things like cleanliness of your vehicle, inside and out. So it's not just that I had to vacuum off the seats and make sure everything was looking good, which I would do that as well, but I was getting, a car wash every couple of days or so, especially in the wintertime, because in Minnesota things get very salty, and it sticks to your car. It looks crusty and gross. I think Minnesota was one of the first states to do away with that old fuzzy pink mustache that Lyft used to have, because in the wintertime it instantly became a crustache, and it just looked disgusting.
Which is sad, because their pink mustache was fun.
It was fun. It was fun, and I even liked when they had the light that was the light up mustache. I think that was a fun branding thing. But regardless, I was paying for all of that. Of course, I'm paying for gas, and I switched after my first year from a minivan, which was getting about 20 miles to the gallon, to a Prius, which was getting,
50.
40, 45. I don't think mine ever got 50. I had a little bit larger, but still getting more than double average fuel efficiency. And I was still filling up every week, every few days, really. I think I would go.
It was like every 3 or 4 days.
Every 3 or 4 days, I was filling up a tank, and it's a smaller tank, of course, but still, it added up. It was a significant expense. It was costing upwards of at least $200 a month just on gas.
And then when you got in an accident,
and that was the final straw. When I was sideswiped, no fault of my own. I was just traveling down the highway. The lane next to me, the cars were stopped. This idiot thought he could sneak out just right behind me, timed his merge completely wrong. I had no time to react. Sideswiped me. It was ruled his fault completely. His insurance paid for everything. So I didn't even have to fight him in court or anything about that. But even though all those things went right for me, as right as an accident can go, I was completely out of work for those 2 weeks while my car was fixed. It was being fixed.
And despite it happening while you were doing Uber,
yeah,
there's no compensation.
I didn't have any sort of a bank that I could have been accumulating for PTO or any of that sort of thing. It was all on my dime, so I lost an entire 2 weeks of pay through no fault of my own. And at that point, I'm like, I can't have this be my sole source of income. This is too dangerous, and really, I'm not making great money at it. They will dangle those sign-on bonuses, and
they dwindle quick.
But you go through that quickly. That's only for the first year that even is a benefit, of course.
Yeah, and then I did it, and then I never got any bonus.
Right. Yeah, they screwed out of that, and what do you do? It's a big faceless company. But aside from that, even when they're acting above bar, in their own terms, they still don't give you very much, and you certainly don't get any help. You are out on your own.
Oh, we're sorry to hear that.
And so that was even when I was working, and this was 5 years ago, something like that I stopped doing it. Oh yeah, I mean,
to screw off too. Like, we don't care that you're not employed. That sounds like a you problem.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I still had to pay child support for those 2 weeks that I was out, even though I had no income. They didn't care. But just beyond that, you're making I was working 6 days a week, making $600 gross, and then probably 50 to 60 of that going to gas. Another $5 to $10 to wash the car. Not to mention I was putting 50,000 miles on my car every year. You end up with nothing. You're basically extracting value out of your own vehicle. That's how you get paid doing Lyft and Uber. And that was back then. So like I say, that was even back then, 5 years ago. Now they've done away with sharing the benefits of like the surge pricing and the prime time, whatever, through the respective apps. So the drivers don't actually make anything extra for driving at these certain times. I'm not even sure how they structure their incentives to keep anyone working, but people still do it somehow. They make you pay to pick up at the airport now, which was a huge source of trips, especially overnight. You get that early morning commuter traffic coming in, stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know how people survive doing it. So for him, I mean, this is just a long way of saying for this guy to brag about people looking to their company as a possibility for making a little bit of extra income. It's not the flex that he seems to think it is. They're doing it out of desperation, because I'm sure at this point, everyone knows someone who's done Lyft or Uber at this point. So they can tell you firsthand how much you get screwed over. The only people that should really ever do any of these sorts of things are people that got a little bit of extra time on their hands and they want to make a buck, basically loan.
They're retired.
Yeah, if you're retired, if you want to, loan yourself some money because you need something real fast.
Or if you...
It's a way to do that, sure.
But if you're about to retire and you want to drive around all day, I highly suggest that you try to become a school bus driver, because we need you.
Yeah, although they get screwed over pretty hard too. They're mostly split shift schedules, and they'll entice you into sign-on bonuses and $25 an hour, stuff like that. But then it ends up being split shift. You're only guaranteed 4 hours a day. I looked into being a bus driver.
Yeah, I know.
It did not appeal to me in the end. Anyway, let's continue on in the video.
I want to dig into
the clip I just played is a...
Are you done?
I think so. This chair really hurts. Sorry, folks.
That's fine. Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
Appreciate your input as always.
Yeah. What a gift.
Yeah, it is a gift. Thanks for being on.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. That was just the sound of the flesh being yanked off that piece of furniture.
Who told you to wear short shorts?
Me.
For the program.
Because I felt like it.
Okay.
My own choices.
You do make your own choices. I won't deny that.
I'm my own woman.
You are. Continue.
A delicious little treat. In this clip, Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi is on CNBC doing a big oopsie and openly admitting that his company benefits from people having less money.
Yep.
In this case, because of inflation. He's a happy little guy because people are flocking to drive for Uber out of desperation. And that means he gets to tell investors the line is going up this quarter. Just look at that smile. I could honestly end the video here, because nothing I can say will ever top a tech CEO transparently describing how he plans to make money off an economic crisis, pushing thousands of Americans closer to food insecurity, and then smiling. But I am a glutton for watch time, so onward with the rest of the video. That clip is only the tip of the iceberg. Uber, and the economic model it's come to represent, is about a lot more than profiteering off inflation and sudden explosions in poverty. You might have heard the term Uberization before, or
Uber Eats, an even worse program than just doing Uber itself. My God, I did that for, I think, a couple of weeks. I tried to stick it out, but guess what? The time that people want to order food the most is also the time that people want just rides the most. So you're giving up rides. You're not getting anything extra. And then I don't think I got a single tip the entire time I was doing Uber Eats. And also because there's so many people, during lunchtime, during commute time, stuff like that, who are out at these places you have to pick up. A lot of times I'd have to wait a long time even to get the food. And by the time you pick it up, you bring it there, you figure out how to get into the building. If they're in a controlled entry building, you get it to the person. They say, oh, yeah, thanks. And then just slam the door in your face. You spent an hour and a half where otherwise you could have gotten, 3-4 rides in that time and made more money. It's a complete waste of time doing the Uber Eats. I don't know why people do that. I don't at all. Maybe if you're doing it on a bike, it could be profitable, but if you're burning gas and time that way, jeez.
platform capitalism, or simply the gig economy. Apps like Uber, Lyft, Grubhub, TaskRabbit, Fiverr, and all the other Uber but for blank apps.
Yeah, I will say, the job itself was great. Lyft and Uber was a great job. I had a lot of fun doing it. I mean, I got to play podcasts all day long, play music all night long, meet so many interesting people coming in and out of town. It was a fun job in itself. And if it weren't for the fact that it was so unprofitable and so risky an endeavor to take on myself, I would consider doing it again, because the job itself is great. But if I could drive someone else's car, be paid an hourly wage regardless of how busy things were, and keep all of my tips still, yeah, it would be a great job. But it's just not the way it is right now.
Have unleashed onto society a supposedly new and disruptive economic model. Its advocates, and these apps themselves,
and have healthcare and PTO. That's kind of a big one too.
describe the gig economy as a whole new way to work. A whole new society, reimagined from the ground up with futuristic technology at its core, and in which an unprecedented number of people will...
And that's the thing, is that I don't understand why all these cab companies, I guess they had just gotten too comfortable in their own business model, but why they didn't see what was happening beyond, oh, someone's competing with me, without having to go through regulations and stuff. Because had the cab companies been able to develop their own apps that work just as slickly, are always up, that's always been Uber's pledge. We're always up, we never crash as an app, we're always available. Stuff like that. Good customer service through it. I don't think Uber would have had the inroads that it did. But they instead tried to fight them on the regulation side of it. They just assumed they were a fly-by-night deal that would go away. And to be fair, had rich people not continuously been pouring billions into the company year after year to this day, it would have folded. It's never been a profitable company. The only reason it stays afloat is because it always has more investments from people that want to make money on it. But it's never turned a profit yet. So there's that. But had they just seen the forest for the trees, instead of focusing on, oh, they're unfairly competing with us and stuff, and be like, hey, this is a technology that we could harness to, supplement some of our dispatch problems. I think a lot of people who are already used to using maybe a particular brand of taxi, that they had good experience. I used to get a lot of people, especially women late at night, who were like, oh man, you don't know how many times like blue and white taxi or whatever it was, or yellow cab has saved my life. Like, I've been at a party and didn't want to walk home through a sketchy neighborhood, and yellow cab was there, or whatever, for me. So people have this brand loyalty, and they just fumbled the entire thing. I have yet to see, maybe it's out by now, but I have yet to see a good Uber type app for just a regular cab company, because there's nothing really stopping them from doing it. And in a capitalist sense, it would save them money too, because they could just because basically all it is automating their dispatch service. So instead of having to pay dispatchers, they could just outsource everything to an app, and it would have kept them profitable at the expense of those dispatcher jobs. But they could have done it, and I just don't understand why they didn't.
Will get the freedom to set their own hours, work from anywhere, be their own boss, and if they work hard, rake in big bucks. But of course, rather unsurprisingly,
I'm glad to hear that, James, that the hillbilly mobile shall stop again. I have never worked on my brakes myself, so hats off to you for having the confidence and the know-how to, service your own car. So I've never even done my own oil change. The most I've done is change a tire on a car. So good job.
This is all BS. Every part of it, including the idea that any of this is new. Let's first start with the money thing, specifically drivers' wages, because it's a good entry point into understanding not only what this economic model really is, but also why it's become such a staple. Figuring out how much Uber drivers, or any other gig workers, make is a headache for everyone, including gig workers themselves. Inconsistent hours, demand, supply, tips, surge pricing, app policies, location, driver data-based algorithms, and so on mean that there is no normal situation from which to extrapolate a universal estimate, despite there being years of data at this point. There's no one number that really tells the whole story, and the question, how much does an Uber driver make, unfortunately doesn't have a single answer. Nonetheless, two things are certain.
Well, like I said, I can use my own experience. I was rated in the top 5 drivers for Uber in the cities, in the Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area one year. So I was driving enough, had a high enough rating to do that. I think that year I made maybe just over 35,000 gross. And a good third of that money went right back into maintenance, if not more. Maintenance of my own vehicle. No one's making money at Uber. Who drives, I should say. That's it.
1, it's a lot less than they should be, and 2, Uber lies and inflates its numbers. By a lot. Back in 2014, for example, Uber used to say that the median salary of its New York drivers was $90K a year. A pretty good sum. More than the city's average salary and way.
Perhaps that is true for New York City. You are dealing with a richer market. There's, it's the city that never sleeps and stuff. So perhaps that seems a bit generous even for that. I would doubt, especially now since they've restructured surge pricing so that they basically take all of the extra.
Above minimum wage. With this number that the company was very proud of, Uber was telling potential drivers that it could offer more than the city's average salary and way above minimum wage. With this number that the company was very proud of, Uber was telling potential drivers that it could offer a salary on par with a job that requires a college degree, but with the only barrier to entry being owning a car. If this sounds too good to be true, it's because it is. It didn't take long for reporters to look into it, and driving for Uber full-time absolutely does not end with $90K in workers' pockets. In reality, reporters estimated that New York's Uber drivers made around $12 an hour.
And when I, looked at everything, looked at all the hours that I did, I don't think I was even making that much. But if you were to say that my job was just a full-time job, so if I was just working full-time, I would be making about $12 an hour doing that job. Once you take out for all the expenses and stuff like that. But considering that I worked 50 or more hours a week, 60, I guess even, then I was, perhaps not even making minimum wage at that point for all the time I put into it. So I worked 10-hour shifts. It was not uncommon to do a 10-hour shift.
Or about $25,000 a year full-time. In other words,
and you also have to hit every single holiday too. Like those are the times of feast, For me, it was Halloween, zombie pub crawl. Not really even as much Thanksgiving, Most people don't need. There are extra people in town, but it was not a significant bump. Let's put it that way. But then, and not even really Christmas either. But New Year's was like the craziest time of the year. Because everyone's going to parties, everyone has to get where they want to be, and they're willing to pay a premium for it. So those were some of the best times. But then you miss out on that yourself. So what does that cost you?
Under the poverty line for a family of 4. And astute observers will have recognized that $25K is, believe it or not, actually a lot less than $90K.
Yeah.
Admittedly, though, this is just one calculation made pretty anecdotally. More recently, it's been estimated that Uber drivers' earnings are even lower, around $350 a month on average, and $155 at the median. These numbers are, again, hard to truly understand.
Yeah, there's so many people that are part-time, because I would make, I would have, in my account, so that's taking out Uber's fees, all that stuff. I would make $100 a day doing it in a typical shift, or more. So anywhere between 100 and 150. So that's gotta be the average, because a lot of people just do it on weekends or one night a month to make some extra money. Because that would be 3-4 days. Minneapolis-St. Paul is not the biggest market there is.
Because they lump together full-time, part-time, and occasional drivers. And while these numbers can give us a general idea of what's going on, they're still nothing specific. Luckily, you don't need specific numbers to understand the problem with Uber and other gig economy employers. Uber drivers, like almost all gig economy workers, are technically considered by the company as independent contractors. As such, Uber drivers do not get basic things like a minimum wage, health insurance, paid time off, sick days, overtime pay, or any other benefits associated with salaried employment. Every moment that you are not working is money out of your pocket, meaning that those for whom the app is the sole means of revenue have incentives to spend as much of the 100 maximum hours the app allows you to work per week doing just that.
And so that's the thing is, he's going to bring it up here in a second, but all that time you're just sitting and waiting for customers, that's time that, should be billable hours to Uber. Time that you're signed into the app should be time that you're working, but you get paid zero for time that you are traveling to the customer. You get paid zero for time you're waiting for a call to come in. So they're just skirting around the fact that you really are an employee. You sign into your shift, you sign out. You may be able to decide when that happens to a degree, but yeah, in every other way, you are an employee. You cannot negotiate for the fees that are charged to the customer. You can't negotiate with Uber how much of a cut they take. You can't negotiate any of the stuff that a typical true independent contractor, which, I mean, the entire system is really takes advantage of people, no matter what sort of independent contractor you are. But especially in this case, you can't do any of the stuff that normally you could do as an independent contractor, other than decide when you start and stop, and that's it.
This also means that any major injury or sickness or any sudden life event puts drivers and other gig workers in a very precarious position. Uber's entire model leads to overworking and exhaustion. Measures...
Yeah, like I said, I was sideswiped by another car doing Uber, and even though their insurance paid for everything, got my car fully fixed, I was completely out of work for those 2 weeks. It's not as though you can just go get another car and be right back up and doing it. I was done. I was out of work for those 2 weeks. The bills did not stop because I was out of work for those 2 weeks. I didn't have PTO. I didn't have a time bank to draw from. I didn't have any recourse. I was just on my own. Oh, hey there, Radical Disability. Good to see you too. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that your family's being homophobic. That's terrible. $12 an hour is not even enough, really, to eat McNuggets for 3 meals a day. I hope that's what you meant to say there, James, because no, $12 an hour, that blows. You cannot get by on $12 an hour. You certainly cannot. That's like half of what you need to rent the average 1-bedroom apartment in this country. So no, that's not cool. I'm sorry to hear that, Radical Disability. That really sucks. But this is a space you can always come into where people are not gonna judge that sort of thing. We are very pro LGBTQIA here, so at least you don't have to hear that from us. I know that's probably small comfort, but that's what I have to offer right now. Yeah, that's what you meant, James. Yeah, you can't even eat nuggies on $12 an hour.
That Uber hardly combats with driving caps that still allow most waking hours to be working hours. Reports of drivers sleeping in cars and doing incredibly long stints are not only common, but can be exacerbated by the ability to switch between apps to avoid automatic cutoffs. The kind of move that makes sense when a 40-hour work week isn't enough to avoid literal poverty. And, unsurprisingly, Uber benefits tremendously from this arrangement. The freedom to set your own hours discourse has pretty successfully shielded the company from all sorts of criticisms about these kinds of consequences that are very much intentional. Any worker...
I mean, it's literally no different than the threat of work or starve that capitalism gives every worker. It's like So you do have freedom. You have the freedom to not starve. It's just like if when you work for Lyft and Uber, you do have the freedom to not make rent that month, uh, to not be able to pay your bills. So, well, you technically, sure, you could shut off the app before you've made enough money to actually live on. No one's going to end up doing that because they can't. So it becomes not a real choice.
Dissatisfied with their earnings, or the amount of work they're doing to earn a meager wage, can be told to simply work harder or smarter. Supposedly, you have the freedom to work as much or as little as you like. So if you aren't happy, you can just adjust those variables. Never mind that what the law is meant to guarantee for someone punching in 40 hours isn't applicable. But there's more to it. Thanks to, let's call it the legal optimization strategy of considering drivers independent contractors, all the costs associated with providing Uber service, getting people from point A to point B in a car, are completely shouldered by drivers themselves. Whether that's buying the car or renting it, paying for the maintenance and the cleaning, paying for insurance, self-employment taxes, income taxes, healthcare, and most importantly, gas, these are all on the driver's dime. Drivers are responsible for all these payments that can take a pretty good gross income, like the one Uber likes to show off, and turn it into a poverty line net salary very quickly. Normally, a company would handle most of these costs and need to provide at least a minimum wage. But thanks to this legal loophole, Uber doesn't. This is what makes the company stand out, and makes it so attractive to investors. For years, in order to make this horrible deal legally viable, Uber has made every effort to portray itself as a simple middleman. Just an app, nothing more. A sort of service that drivers pay for with a cut of their sales, but by no means an employer. Something Uber loves to remind its drivers with the use of the phrase, "be your own boss." Uber justifies this by saying that it doesn't set its drivers' hours, like a normal business would, nor does it force its drivers to take rides, the way a salaried employee might be given tasks to accomplish as part of their...
Now this is where they're really being slippery with the terminology here, the idea that they don't force you to take rides. As long as you are signed into that app, at least this was true while I was working, you have to have a certain acceptance percentage. That is to say, it has to be somewhere near like 95% of the people that asked for a ride while you were signed in, you have to accept. Otherwise, you get deactivated. So the idea that it doesn't force you to take any rides, well, sure, because you could turn the app off, I suppose, but you do have to accept a certain number in order to stay active with the company.
Their work. But of course, these are superficial details considering the enormous amount of control Uber still has on its drivers. Using data collected from every ride, every driver, and every rider, Uber toggles variables like price, number of rides, and other important things that drivers are not privy to and cannot negotiate within a range of variability much greater than would ever be normal for an independent contractor. This means that although Uber might not formally work like a traditional employer, the algorithms and policies it has in place effectively give it as much control over its drivers as if it did. Uber can quite suddenly turn the tap off, cut its drivers' earnings, and blame the whole thing on fluctuating demand or the algorithm. But in most places, the law doesn't consider this amount of power over work to be traditional employment. So Uber can keep circumventing labor laws, including some very important ones. In many countries around the world, independent contractors have practically no guarantees, as we've already covered with minimum wage and healthcare being off the table. But more sinister, and less well known, is that in plenty of countries, independent contractors cannot form unions. In the US, under the National Labor Relations Act, for example, only employees are guaranteed this right, meaning that any form of collective bargaining that could raise workers' wages, set more reasonable limits on driving hours, or in any way improve the experience that drivers have with the company is off limits.
And while I was working for Lyft and Uber, I experienced some attempts at collective organizing amongst the drivers to do things like say, you know, Uber is screwing us over. They're not giving us enough money, enough of the percentage, whatever it was they were concerned about that Uber was doing. So at this time, we're getting every driver we can together to leave your app on but don't accept any rides. Keep driving that because at the time that would keep driving up the surge pricing, the prime time. I don't remember which one Uber went with, but anyway, that was the idea. It never worked in practice. I've yet to see any collective action actually affect Lyft or Uber in any meaningful way, because it's just so hard to. I mean, I knew a handful of other drivers, and that's only because they organized a meetup, and I went out and specifically met with them to talk to them about, their experiences and stuff like that. But other than that, it's very hard to organize people you don't see and don't know, spread out literally over the entire geography of a metro area at any given time. So it's hard. It could be easier if you use things like, Facebook groups, I suppose, or other sorts of social media. But even then, you're never going to get the kind of engagement that you could get in an in-person job setting. So it's hard. I don't know how they would even go about doing it in a successful way.
And now that the public and the state have caught on, gig economy companies are making sure that this extremely lucrative loophole won't disappear. Back in 2020, for example, Uber and Lyft spent $200 million to stop California from classifying Uber drivers as employees. And in 2016, Uber and Lyft lobbyists outnumbered Amazon, Microsoft, and Walmart combined. This lobbying powerhouse means that Uber can't fail, even when it does. Recently, for example, the UK formally reclassified Uber drivers as employees, but Uber still held onto its strategy and therefore its profits by ensuring that things like minimum wage guarantees would only.
That sounds really rough. Radical disability. I'm sorry that you're feeling that pressure from family members, and that they are using undue influence on their congregations to sway their political opinions. Because, whether or not you support any downtrodden or oppressed group, that is a political opinion, and I think you're absolutely right. They should be seeking to uplift social justice, not trying to smash it to pieces. So that's really suck. And yes, James, I did work for Uber Eats for like a couple of weeks until I found out that it was wasting so much of my time. I would be much better off just driving during those times, because as I said earlier, it would always come up. People would only order food during times like rush hour, when you also have a lot of rides in high demand. And depending on the place you go, it could be really busy. You could have to wait a long time just to pick up the food, assuming it's even ready by the time you got there. Then you have to get all the way over to where they are. And not a single person I ever delivered to tipped me at all. Not on the app, not in person. They just shut the door and said, "Oh, thanks." That's it. So no, I was done with that pretty quickly. It's even more of a scam than just basic Uber is.
Apply when drivers had a passenger in the car, something which the app is only able to do 40 to 50% of the time, meaning the minimum wage guarantee is effectively slashed in half. Drivers spend almost half their time on the clock waiting through no fault of their own, but get punished.
And about half the miles that you travel to end up being driving to the person that you're picking up. That tends to be how it goes, especially if you're getting a lot of short rides. That ends up being the case.
For it. All thanks to Uber's powerful lobbies in yet another perfect example of how pushing the independent contractor story doesn't line up with the traditional employment reality. Clearly, spending all that time waiting conflicts with the whole setting your own hours guarantee an independent contractor should normally be actually guaranteed. Then there's the fact that even if Uber says it's an app for free independent contractors, or people working a couple extra hours as a side hustle, Uber is completely dependent on the people who treat driving for the app as a full-time job to survive. And it proves as much with all its efforts to actively seek them out. Uber would simply not work without functional employees. And as proof, in 2021, the company set aside $250 million for a so-called driver stimulus, desperately trying to attract full-time drivers from its pool of part-time workers. This is because, according to data from the city of Seattle, 1/3 of Uber's drivers, those that work full-time, provide up to half of all rides. Uber simply couldn't survive without people treating it like a full-time, normal job. But the company can't...
That's because the casuals, too. People that just do it for a hobby or on the side or whatever to make some extra cash, they're only going to go during the most lucrative times. So, like, on a given day, that would be bar close. Assuming your city has bar close. But, you know, or like around major holidays or big events, you know, sporting events, stuff like that. They're not going to be there. They're not going to put in an 8-hour shift. They're gonna do the 2 or 3 hours that are really, you know, high priced and high return, and then they're going to shut the app off and go to bed or whatever. Most drivers to actually be able to have a 24-hour service, most drivers are going to be clocked in for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. And there's going to be a lot of ups and downs during that time. It's not always just going to be the gravy train part of the day.
Ever admit this fact without risking labor laws killing their whole business model. In practice, this means that all Uber has done is turn back the clock and called it innovation. It has popularized a model that produces full-time employment without the legal protections earned through decades of militant labor struggles, like the 8-hour workday, the weekend, Social Security, and so on. It has taken us back to a time where companies hold all the cards, with no exceptions and no governmental regulations to prevent them from pursuing ever more destructive labor policies. And while Uber may not be profitable, despite its now 13-year-long existence, investors continue putting money in and holding their shares because they recognize that this model, with its ability to slash employment costs, is the best chance they have at profitability in the long run. And what's terrible is how little this actually has to do with Uber. The rest of our economy has completely bought in. Today, 70% of Ryanair's pilots are independent contractors, airplane pilots. And if that doesn't seem...
That just seems insane. I'm sorry, but when it comes to air travel, I don't want someone who is just casually doing this on, you know, on the weekends or whatever, to make a little bit of extra money. I want someone who has experience and hours logged, and you know, maybe they still have all that stuff, but that would not give me a lot of confidence knowing that not to mention they probably push them even harder with hours than conventional airliners do. But, that sounds bad. And yeah, Proudly Radical, that sounds terrible. It's hard when you have such a close family member who still holds on to bigoted beliefs, especially if they're educated and they should know better. That's really hard. I feel for you.
Seem crazy enough, several companies are now trying to do the same thing in the healthcare industry, pushing nurses into that same independent contractor status and saving hospitals money. That is, saving hospitals money not by nationalizing healthcare, or preventing insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies from profiting off of people's basic need to continue living and being healthy, or any other sensible measure, but by gutting workers' paychecks. And it's not just a matter of a few examples here and there. Today, 53% of people aged 18 to 24 who work in the gig economy do so as their primary income source. And according to a Princeton study, 94% of the net employment growth in the US between 2005 and 2015 has been in quote-unquote alternative work arrangements, meaning independent contractors.
That does not spell good things for this country, I gotta say. Because once you get to the gig economy stuff, you're just cannibalizing your future. You're stealing from the future and your populace's ability to reproduce itself in any meaningful way. So,
temp work and freelancing are basically the only new jobs our economy is producing. While we tend to think of companies like Uber and Lyft as the main perpetrators of this shift in work, they actually represent a very small piece of the pie, as little as 0.5% of workers according to that same study. The sad truth is that regulating a few apps won't be enough. Our entire economy now depends on the blatant exploitation of a legal loophole that allows conventional companies to hire conventional employees, call them something else, and get away with a bigger cut of the profit. And although companies like Uber have made their name by blatantly breaking the law and entering markets where protections for workers would have kept them out, in some cases, the transition to precarious gig work has been welcomed by our governments. The Uber files, a leak from earlier this year, revealed that then Minister of the Economy, now President Macron, negotiated with Uber representatives to get the company in France, screwing over established taxi drivers and bringing in a new service that would outcompete them by being more affordable thanks to Uber's own subsidies, and of course the company's reliance on a more exploitative and damaging contract with its employees. Confronted with this leak, Macron has even doubled down, stating he would, quote, do it again tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. The picture that's emerged from the past few years presents a very grim vision for the future. The trend of precarious work that is poorly paid, unprotected, and maximally exploitative will obviously continue.
See, here you go. When it comes down to it, liberals are going to protect capitalists first and foremost. Capitalist countries that are constitutionally required to protect property, such as the U.S., that's going to be what it is at the end of the day. It's they're gonna do what Macron did. Get a deal to get Uber in your state or city or whatever. So yeah, we need more than liberalism to get us out of this.
Continue. Governments, beholden to the profit motive and the private interest that lobby them, will continue accommodating this exploitation, happily rolling back the gains of organized labor when they get in the way. Without intense organizing efforts, the future, and frankly the present, is not bright. For decades, people have been told that if they are poor, if they are miserable, that they should just work harder, make money by selling their time and energy to someone who will profit from their exhaustion more than they themselves ever will. It was always a raw deal. But now that even a full week's worth of work isn't enough, that companies gloat when inflation pushes people into more dire poverty, and that our governments welcome these changes with open arms, what could there possibly be left to support? Our labor landscape needs a complete overhaul, and we're not going to get it with politics as usual. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that this kind of content is made possible by my patrons on Patreon. As I've expressed many times before, YouTube doesn't treat socialist creators very well. Because of this, I rely on viewers like you to maintain my channel. If you like the kind of videos I'm producing and you're able to chip in even $1 a month, I would greatly appreciate the support. As a little show of that appreciation, every patron, regardless of donation amount, gets early access to every video, plus access to our patrons-only Discord server. We have everything from a recommended reading list, to a book club, to special channels for our neurodivergent and LGBT comrades. I also try to do a live Q&A once a month, which is always a good time. We've built a great little community, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. So if you'd like to help support my channel, join the Discord, and get early access to every video, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/secondthought.
One of the best video essayists out there on the left right now, I would say. All right, coming up to about 8 o'clock now my time, so I think we're going to shift gears a little bit. So usually on nights like this, I have Dan Platt of the Three Left Show on, but he's out of town this week, so we're gonna have to catch up next week or the week after, because tomorrow night is Amanda and I's anniversary, so I will not be having a stream tomorrow night either, because we're gonna be out celebrating. That's assuming that my test tonight, I gotta retest for COVID again. Assuming that comes back negative and I'm able to go to work and all that stuff, then we'll be out celebrating our 2-year anniversary. So yeah, so I guess I won't be doing another video for a week probably, unless some strange confluence of circumstances comes up. Yeah, that's a big reason I brought Amanda on tonight. She asked if she could be on, and I was like, oh yeah, that'd be a fun time, because don't have anything else to do, and she always adds a lot to the conversation. So yeah, it worked out pretty well. But I think we'll do one last thing tonight. I got, not that long ago, a video game that I wanted to kind of get into. I thought it might be fun to play on stream. And that game is Tropico 4. if you're not familiar with the series, you get to play as a Caribbean dictator. It's kind of a city planning sort of game, but you have other things you can do. You have edicts that you can put, like free food for the people or free housing, stuff like that. Yeah, Amanda was on earlier. I thought you were here for Amanda. Maybe you missed her entirely. Anyway, so I thought that'd be a fun one to do on stream. So I'm thinking of making a series out of it. We'll play together. We'll see if we can make a digital communist utopia and keep the U.S. from invading us at the same time, because that's something that's already happened to me several times playing this game through. I've had things like the U.S. invading me because they didn't like me. My politics were too radical for them, and I wasn't trading enough, or whatever it was. So I was thinking we'd play that together, and let's see if I can even pull up the right. Here we go. Now, if I do this, it's going to show. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to. I should be able to stream this. I'm going to have to figure out how to put it into a window instead. So if I share here, and then I open the game, is that going to come up? I'm not sure. Maybe I'll have to see what my options are, see if I can play this in a window or something. Because it's just showing you the start screen, isn't it? There's got to be some way to do it. Visuals. Let's see. Not resolution. Yeah, it's just showing the start screen, not the game itself. That's not at all what I want. I guess just for now, I'm going to have to put it into... I'll have to share the full screen then. Which is annoying. I don't like having to do it that way, because it looks wonky for a little bit there. We'll stop that. I've never played games with Epic Prawn. I do like his channel quite a bit, but I've not played with him yet. So we're going to have to share the entire screen. Share with system audio. And let's see. And then we'll put on the game itself. So we're going to go to the main menu. That's fine. We're going to start a brand new game so we can build this land together. Assuming that my entire screen is being shared. It should be. Okay, yeah, it's working. So, let's see. Kills dragons and plays Nintendo. That's cool. I like that stuff. So here we are, El Presidente Bread Theory. And we're going to start a new game. We'll just do play. Campaign.
Money. Everything revolves around money. I need a steady revenue stream for my Grand Tropican project.
Okay.
I believe I found the solution to this problem. Isla de Hierro is rich with iron and other minerals. Most foreign companies avoid the island due to suspect
So here we are.
geological activity. And
Campaign mode.
time for suspicions. I have to make money.
Alright. So first we gotta pick our dictator. I think the only ones I'm really interested in of this list are either Fidel or Che Guevara. And of the two, Fidel has a little bit better stats. You got the charismatic and patriotic. And Che just has charismatic and hardworking, but is not as bad in the bad stats either. I don't know this guy. Military coup. Yeah, Papa Doc. See, a lot of these are just regular dictators. Oh, he was elected as a socialist. Okay, so there you go. Actually elected. Pinochet is definitely not one we're going to be. No fascists for us. Thank you very much. Not familiar. Oh, installed by the CIA. Definitely don't want that. Definitely don't want Noriega. No, thank you. So hey, let's go between one or the other. Why don't we just go with Che? That'll be more fun, I think. And we're moving forward. So here's the island. You have all these advisors.
This man is the Caribbean business.
So basically, he wants mining. Wants mining to go. So we have our little island here. Here's the dock. People and goods come in and go. We have buildings like this one, or the garage, which people just basically borrow cars from to get around the island faster. We have the workshop, construction office. We're going to set it to easy does it, which gives you, not only do you not have workers working 14 hours, but you get a better quality product at the end. And then we have a tenement. We're going to do our best to get rid of the need for tenements. And then the Teamsters, which distribute stuff around the island. Here's the castle here too. We got our guards for us. That's not really important yet. We're going to be building up our economy first as we go. So we have things like corn farm, a couple of corn farms. And then you get radio announcements. It's kind of fun. Okay. So let's see. So this is going to be our main drag. So we're going to put a lot of our entertainment and touristy sort of things if we decide to attract tourists in there. We're not going to mess around with edicts yet. We already have people living in shacks, so that's probably the first thing we're going to try and do something about. So here we have our different things that we can build. Housing is going to be a big one. We need a blueprint for our apartment block, but I'm not going to build tenements. They have very low housing quality, and people end up not liking them. So apartment block, by contrast, is decent housing. So we'll be just fine doing that. And it's okay that a few of these shacks get knocked down in the process because they will move into the housing eventually. So we got that. Over here is kind of an agricultural area, so I think we'll probably start plopping some farms down because it seems like you never have enough farms once you really get the game going. So we're going to do a farm. And it looks like good for corn over here. Let's see, probably not bananas. Papayas have a little bit of good land here. So we'll start out with a papaya farm, just for some variety in food source. So we got that. And I think probably with our last little bit of money, we're going to make a pub, just so people have something to do, something that's a little bit of entertainment, because that's important too. It's a very small island. There's not much left, or not much yet, I should say. And it's a big place. Like we have all these highlands up here, which are going to be good for growing coffee and other things. We have these cool ruins from an indigenous civilization. That's basically just, it looks nice. I don't think it actually affects gameplay at all. But it's a big island. We have a lot of stuff we can do. But, yeah, I'll need your all's help to make those big decisions. So things are pretty slow when you start. I'm going to actually speed up time a little bit, because not much happens for the first couple of years, really. Because you're really just getting things going. But unlike SimCity, you don't have to stop the game as soon as you go in the negative. you can run a budget deficit up to something like $8,000 or something like that. So we'll be okay with that. And these don't have anyone to work at them yet, but I don't think we need to hire someone from overseas. I think we'll be good so far. But here we go. Here's our apartment. People are starting to move in already. We're going to already bump the rent down, make that housing quality better. And eventually we're going, probably around the first election cycle, we'll do something major, like free rent, something like that. So we got some national debt. Foreign relations are not doing well because of that. Not a big deal yet, though. Yeah, and we have no exports yet because these have not produced anything yet. And that's the thing about these farms. It takes something like 6 months for them to have their first return on a crop. So while they're employing a lot of people, that's good. Also, why are they not building this yet? Sometimes I wonder about the construction workers, because I have nothing else in the queue that I know of.
I blame the global economic crisis. What are we expected to do in such harsh conditions?
I would assume it does have Modelo in the pub, but I don't really know. Wonder if we can find out. See, a lot of people like this. So this is a good source of cheap entertainment. People hang out here. Hey, here's a little drunk guy. You can see who he's related to. He's a dock worker. I cannot bribe him. I cannot arrest him. I cannot call him a heretic. I can shoot him. This will not be something that I do. Because we're trying to get a communist utopia here. And we don't want to be executing a bunch of people. And so now here we have our papaya farm. It's already got some workers on it. So we're already boosting employment numbers, which is great. That'll help keep the people happy. Allow them to afford housing. But like I said, first couple of years, things are pretty slow. Not a lot of change. And now they finally started producing stuff. So that's good. And we got some financial aid. So we'll back it back off now that we have that. And we'll figure out what our next priority should be. So we've got a little bit of entertainment. We have a little bit of housing. There's welfare and the economy. Oftentimes what I like to do is start out with a clinic. And eventually a church. But right now I think a clinic is more important. And hey, why not? We'll put it right behind the pub. So when people have an emergency, when they're feeling a little bit too drunk, they can just stumble on over. Actually, I'd say it's supposed to be facing that way. Maybe we'll just we'll not put it across the street because that's a little bit too much of a nuisance. But there we go. So now we're going to have basic health care for our people. But it's kind of cool. So, like, housing is not... Oh. Pause for a second. Isn't that nice? Here to talk about serious things, but all she wants to talk about is her hair. All right. So, I think we're gonna diversify our food intake as well. Get our get things going with a fisherman's wharf. So first we need a road. And then we will do Fisherman's Wharf. There we go. And we will send a road out to it. They're not too particular about roads in this game. As long as things are close. Seems to be good enough. Who's this guy wandering around? Oh, he's a soldier. Marte Romero. We'll stick with clean waste disposal. You can also put it back to the sea. Halves the upkeep, but pollution is way higher. So it's saying I should still go for housing. So that'll probably be the next thing I do again. Add some housing. People are pretty content to kind of walk a lot of places. It's not uncommon to see people like walking from a farm. That's probably actually the next thing I should build is a little marketplace so that people don't have to go all the way out to farms to get food. Because that's how they do it right now. And there's a great soundtrack for this game. I'll play just a tiny fraction of it, but I'm guessing it's copywritten material, or it could be anyway. So I don't want to take the chance of playing it over the whole thing. And also, you know, you play the game for a few hours and you've heard most of the songs on there. It gets to be a little bit repetitive, but we'll just play just a fraction. You can hear it. It's a really great soundtrack. So I was playing that for quite some time when I first started playing the game. Yeah, cars just driving out into the woods. Yeah, reminds you of West Virginia. That's funny. SWAT team, yeah. Miller High Life. I have no idea if they have Miller High Life, I'm sorry to say. At the pub. They don't get that granular in the detail. But you can see like individuals, and you can follow them throughout their life as well. You see he's married to Silvestre Soto. They got 2 kids together. Looks to be pregnant with a third child, and you can read their thoughts. All work and no play. So satisfying fun. Can't satisfy faith. This island needs more churches. Okay. Maybe that'll be the next thing that we do. We'll put a church right across from the pub so they can stare judgmentally at them. Because, you know, regardless of how I feel about any particular religion, the people of this island want it. So as soon as we get another loan from, or more financial aid from a foreign power, something like that, we will go ahead and plop down a church. But already our clinic is working well. Have 2 educated people on the island, thankfully. Eventually you can get ministries. You can decide what sort of immigrants you allow into the country, if it's only educated, which eventually a lot of the jobs require educated people to run. 13 new immigrants, so that's not great. We're going to need to build more housing soon. But you can get real close in. It's like people are actually eating. Childhood museum. All right. So people have real lives and stuff like that. He's very hungry, though. Let's see. No food. I don't know why these people are not having food, because they're producing plenty here out on these farms. We shouldn't have need yet for more food. All right. Let's see now. So let's see. Welfare and economy. I think church is going to be our next one, but we don't have quite enough. I'm not going to do a customs office. That doesn't make any sense yet to spend that kind of money. Just checking the time there. Let's see. Attractions, can't really do any of that stuff. You have to have a place for people to be. You have to have a tourist dock. We could put a tourist dock on before we even have a motel. I think that's probably good just to get that started up, because it takes a long time to get the tourist economy going. So we'll do that. Put a road out to it. And there we are. See, they're dropping off construction workers. And there we are. So now we can accept tourists. And even we could go into a little bit of debt and put in a really cheap motel, because it'll pay for itself quite quickly. I don't want to destroy housing to do it. So we're just going to put it. Which way do you... Sometimes it's hard to tell which way these buildings are supposed to go. It looks like a little gas station. So I'd say that's what it's supposed to be like. So every once in a while a freighter comes, it unloads your goods and stuff like that. Now we have debt. Foreign relations have suffered. So for the first few years, your foreign relations do tend to suffer. Because you're often in debt, just putting together infrastructure that pays off later on. The papaya is doing well, though. That's good to see. You don't want to get too far in debt, though, because then you can get in trouble. Have it hard. So corn just basically produces food. So you can see that already the papaya is producing better, or as good as the corn. Even better, actually. So corn is mostly just for local consumption, though. So we need a market next.
I was going to show you some charts, Presidente, but I was robbed.
Yeah, we need a police station, but we're not gonna have money for a police station for some time. Okay, we got some money again. I think the next thing to buy or to build is going to be a church. It's going to put us in debt quite a bit, but we will get back out of it quite quickly because it'll make people happy.
Our treasury balance is negative at the moment. The World Bank will cover $10,000 of expenses until we get back on our feet.
Okay. So that, I'm not sure if we can just get money. I'm not sure all of the mechanisms of this game yet. I'll say it that way. So I would not even know where to get a loan from the World Bank from.
What is it now?
Most people are over here. Okay. That doesn't help a whole lot. Island economy. Hey, so we're doing okay.
Thank God we have a doctor on the island.
Okay. We don't have miners yet, so I'm not quite sure how that works. So these are not doing well economically yet. Doesn't make sense. They're actually doing really well. Okay, so we have a church already. And next, I think we're going to put in a marketplace because it distributes food to the population. And we'll probably put it right next to the clinic, because I'm thinking of putting this road as being a big residential road. But I need pretty badly another housing unit. We only do apartment blocks. We're not going to ever do tenements. No thanks. I think after that, we're probably going to have to find a place for a mine. So let's... Yeah, so again, foreign relations take a hit. We got a big shanty town booming up here. But these will start to go away once we have enough of an economy going that we can provide free housing. That's going to be one of my first ones. No coal? No, I don't think you can mine coal in this game. It's metals, it's salt, stuff like that. Put a Burger King next to the hotel? Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, people don't put anything where I don't say it can go. This is different than even...
Poor tourist injured himself making funny faces in front of the palace guard, sir. Don't worry, sir. He has amnesia and doesn't know what hit him.
Some attractions for the stupid foreigners. Got it. Fair enough. So now they're demanding attractions. Let's give them a cheap little souvenir shop. That ought to keep them appeased for a little bit anyway. And it'll always produce more money than it costs to build eventually. But next I think we need to start with our mining operation. So that is food and resources. We have a mine. And now all these little spots pop up. So we have a pretty good mining spot here. I'm not sure which one that is. It doesn't matter because they will mine anything. So it's not... Oh, it's an iron deposit. So we have a few iron deposits. We have, I think the white is a salt mine. So that takes a specific type of mine. But everything else, all the mineral mines are basically the same. So we have basically two options. We can put a mine here or here to start with. And I think we'll probably just start here. Easy enough to connect a road to it. So I'll put a road in all the way out to the mine. So there we go. That'll be our first mine.
Look around, President.
Oh boy.
See the overflowing garbage cans.
They really play into some of the stereotypes. Like Sunny Flowers, the environmentalist. Anti-litter ordinance. Okay, we're not going to do that yet. We got some financial aid. Now we can start doing things like building a school. So we're going to do that. Grade school. I'm going to take that and start the very long, slow process of educating the people. This always takes a very long time. I've found this to be very frustrating. Because you'll have a grade school, there'll be, but then you just don't get enough teachers. And so only half of the otherwise capacity that you could have ends up getting educated. And then there's not enough people to move up to high school, which means there's not enough people to move up to college, and then your positions that require college to fill them don't get filled, and it's this cascading thing. But it's very hard. This is the place where children get educated. But luckily we got a couple of great people in to be grade school teachers. So hopefully we'll get that education pipeline going. See how our little tourist shack is doing.
CEO Keith Preston, please have my card. I believe you already got my check.
Yep, so we got to export 500 iron. So yeah, look, our little tourist trap is doing well. It's making tons of money. All these board tourists are just heading straight over there. And we made enough that we can do something else even. And these, the shading here, I believe means that like the coastline and some of the interior are good places to put touristy stuff, but for some reason, city center is never considered a good touristy spot. Although any sort of entertainment place you put in, the tourists come and they flock to. So I don't know how much to really trust this map when it comes to deciding what to put in. We're going to need more road before we put in another tourist spot. Oh, the road building tool is not the greatest in this game, I must say. That's good enough for now. So, another little attraction. We're going to have a little cocktail bar. I think it's got its island theme and whatnot. And we'll put it out by the the dock, so they can basically just go between the cocktail bar, the motel, and the cheesy souvenir shop, and they should be okay. So already our fish production is doing well. You can see the fishing zones. So there's some pretty good stuff out here. I don't know how I would ever get anyone living out here, because I don't think you're even able to build anything. Like, what would you even put out here? No one's gonna live. Yeah. There's no place to even put stuff out here, so I don't know why they bother with that. Ah, and now we have some money rolling in. Alright, now we can start with this sort of thing. We're not going to spend 10,000 right now.
They are after my money. Stop them.
Increase crime safety. We'll accept it for the time being, but we may get rid of it.
I need a favor, partner. If we lower the iron export price by 10%, we'll lose some profits. But we're bound to force some of the competition out of business.
Sure, we'll agree with him because he will like us. So he's going to give us $10,000 to do this, and you can either put it in your Swiss bank account or you can put it in the treasury. So I'm gonna be the good leader and put it in the treasury.
Comrade Presidente, an article published in the Pravda in Moscow has criticized the housing conditions for the masses in
We will do something about that for sure. So we're going to put up a couple more apartment complexes. So first we need a road. Sorry guys, I will be building you housing though, so I hate having to clear this land, but you're going to get it back in housing. So it's not the worst trade-off, I would say. End up with more housing. All right, let's see where we're at.
Intelligence reports that subversive elements might be taking violent action.
Secret police. Okay.
You should consider
So you,
establishing secret police to prevent or at least minimize such activities.
So one of the things you have to manage is not just revolutions or invasions from without, but revolutions from within. So if enough people are dissatisfied with your job, export crude oil is not something we're going to do yet.
One Teamster's office is not enough for a major economy like ours, Presidente. Consider building a second Teamster's office.
Second Teamster's office, all right. Not a big deal. Let's see how many people. Oh, so yeah, we have full apartment complexes here. Basically 100% occupancy. I'm sure the moment this goes in, it's going to be full too. So we're doing okay so far. I think probably now is a good time to add some entertainment. Doesn't have to be anything. Oh, they had one of the childhood museums, so let's do that. It's a theme park about my life growing up, so we can get a close-up view before we put it in there. Yeah, so isn't that nice? Everyone wants to go learn about my life, apparently. So we'll put it right on the main drag, and people will, for some reason, go there. All right.
My son, do you know what all Tropicans...
Sure, we'll try to raise religious happiness. No problem. Not going to export that yet. Sorry. And now we're getting a population where we need more food. So we go back to our food and resources, and we're going to start in with another farm. Papaya grows really well here and not a whole lot of other places. So I think we'll do another papaya farm. Let's see, what about the pineapple? So we want to have a diversified economy when it comes to growing food. There we go. So a pineapple one too. All right. So we're getting more tourists now. Our little tiki bar is going well. It's very obnoxious, probably culturally insensitive, but the tourists like it.
I was captain of the rowing team at Cambridge.
Oh, weren't you now? So yeah, we're getting pretty good occupancy. It's getting close to getting time to...
The morale of the men is low, sir. We should appease our comrades in arms.
Okay. Better housing conditions and other services. All right, fair enough. We're going to slow down the time a little bit. So I think we're pretty well on top of housing for right now. How can we... We'll bump up the wages just a little bit. So we haven't had to do anything with the military yet. We're just getting our economic engine going, basically. So what do we have here? We have childhood museum. There's a little bit of entertainment. And maybe we can even do a restaurant. Let's see if we can fit this in here. We certainly can. This is one that I've always had trouble figuring out which way it's supposed to go. I think that way looks right. Yeah. What time is it? Oh, we got 12 minutes left. What?
Get out.
I didn't say get out. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't overstaying my time.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice story.
Okay. So, all right. So there's our little restaurant. So our little entertainment district is going in, coming up very nicely. Pan the camera just a little bit. Grow tomatoes. I cannot grow tomatoes. I'll show you what I can grow. Here is my food and resources. So for a farm, I can grow corn, bananas, which are harder to grow. They need very specific conditions. It looks like here's the field of bananas. Someday. I can grow papaya, which do pretty well here, actually. And then the cash crops, the coffee, tobacco, and sugar. So I'm gonna start coffee, not so much. We gotta wait till we build up into this highlands area. So we're not gonna do that yet. Tobacco does have more of a potential here. And then we have sugar. And sugar looks great here. So we're gonna start our first cash crop farm too. There we go. All right, we really need to start building now. So, back to the housing. Got our apartment block. All right.
My dear Presidente, do you know that your advisor, Penultimo, spells his name with not one, not two, but 5 typos? All intellectuals agree that it is high time we build a high school on our island.
Yes, and she's not wrong. So since we have a bunch of money right now, we're going to start investing in that. So let's add some more infrastructure. Some roads. Let's see. All right, looking good so far. Why is that too steep? There we go. That's going to make for an awkward little 4 corners, but that's okay. Anyway, time for more education. So a high school. I believe this is the right way to put in the high school. Or is it this way? No, it's definitely this way. My mistake. There we go. So I agree. High school it is. And the mine is up and running. Producing a lot. So now it's time for another mine. We'll put the other mine over here. So things are going pretty fast. And pretty well so far, actually. There's the mine. That's what I need. And then we just need to connect a road. Oops, I didn't rotate the mine the right direction. There we go. Let's see what we got. Build another grade school? Okay.
Sweetie, I couldn't wait for the night and came to tutor you earlier.
Jeez.
I found some new intellectual exercises and philosophical.
Hot peppers,
You
okay.
may find interesting.
Tell them to grow tomatoes. I wish I could grow tomatoes. Tomatoes are a tropical fruit, believe it or not. They are from much more tropical regions than they're typically grown in. So I will build a new grade school. That's totally fine. At some point, we're going to have to build a police station, so we might as well just make it now. So we will put you, shoehorn you right up in here. There we go. So get that out of the way. And then I think our place is getting large enough that we actually need to start building up the military. Which is the unfortunate truth, but the U.S. will be less likely to invade if we actually have a standing military. So the armory is where all of that starts. And I like to usually keep the military stuff close to relatively close to the palace. So we'll put you right there. Yeah, we're not gonna do logging. That probably will not be something we do, at least for a long time, till we get up into this very wooded area up here. But there's mostly agricultural land down here, so we'll stick with that. But yeah, we're gonna have to consider building more infrastructural type stuff. No way to get through there. I don't like the way they lay out the first one. The first few buildings that you don't do.
Good job, partner. Here's a little something for you.
Yeah, so it goes right to my bank account, my Swiss bank account. Unfortunately, I have to get rid of this tenement because I don't want it. I don't want my people living in tenements. I think we can do better. Demolish. So we're going to set you for demolition, but we have a lot more that are going up. Apartment blocks. Got 3 more to go up. Horticulture station. That sounds good.
The world is in danger. Only we.
Horticulture station. It's hard to find. There it is. We need a blueprint for that one, which basically just means pay a fee. But this helps regrow forests or boost your crops. So we're gonna do. We're gonna have it help with crop production. Although I think she wanted it for reforestation, but hey.
Sir, the number of rebels on the island is growing higher. We should take adequate precautions.
Okay, so people are threatening revolution. Which is not great. Not great at all. So we're going to have to do both, actually. Recruit more generals. Here we go.
Some of our workers are on strike. I say we strike them back.
No, I don't think so. So the dock workers demand better working conditions. So if we pay 300 to every protester, that's one option. Can send the army in to teach the lazy bones a lesson. Or we could let it be. More interesting to see how long they can hold out. They stop working for 6 to 12 months. No thanks. So the middle one, the repercussion is you kill 3 random strikers. Not going to happen, so we're going to pay them off. We're going to do the honorable thing. And we probably need more dock workers at this point. So yeah. He's going to be in infrastructure. Another Teamster's office. So we need to make the people happier. What do they need to be happier? Well, we can look at entertainment. I think it's about time for cabaret or another restaurant. Let's do the cabaret. That's kind of a fun one. There we go. So I like how things are going.
I overheard some open talk against your regime in the officers' quarters, sir. I am doing what I can, but I fear that a coup in the near future is a very real possibility.
Okay. Bonus or civilians call it a bribe. All right. Well, let's look at the edicts. The general, we can provide more food for the people. We can do free housing. I think it might be time for this. We're going to activate free housing. And then we'll take a look at the people. Overall happiness, 40%. Well, it's up, though. It's coming back up. Average pay is not great. Food quality has gone up. Income disparity has gone up. So what is it that they want? Capitalists not so happy. Communists more happy than not. Environmentalists not happy. And the loyalists not happy. I don't care much about the loyalists. too much yet, at least. And our foreign relations. Oh, cold. We need to do better with the U.S. or they're just going to invade us. So that's not great. All right, let's look at putting together more stuff for the tourists. Actually, you know what? We can put a ministry together. Like ministers and a foreign relations office. I think its time has come. So here we go with that. Let's hope that helps smooth some stuff over. And look, you know what? Let's put another edict into effect. We're gonna bump it up even further. Food for the people, increase food quality, doubles food consumption. Sounds good to me. And then we need to build a road around the side of the palace so we can continue on back here. There we go. We're going to have to put that on high priority, unfortunately. And we'll put that on high priority. Because it's good. Housing is good. Entertainment is good. They went for the entertainment first, apparently. The construction crews did. How they decide what to build first, I don't know.
Partner, we have a problem. The prices of iron have been plummeted, and I can't secure deals as lucrative as before.
So we're going to export gold.
Excellent choice, partner. Most lucrative. You can't go wrong with gold, as my accountant said.
Let's see. How is housing doing? Housing is always hard to figure out. You just gotta kind of see how many vacancies there are. Armory, getting that going. Foreign office, getting that going. Let's bump up that priority too.
Peace and love, dear Presidente. Please accept this flower wreath as a gift and hear my plea.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. We're gonna have.
President, the question of the status of Taiwan has come up again. Taiwanese, but we have to stay our position on this issue.
Unfortunately, the relations with the U.S. are so bad that if we stress them anymore, they will invade. So we're going to have to take the hit with Chinese relations. But yeah, the U.S. hates us right now for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. We should boost tourism, I suppose. Let's see. Pay the $2,000 and a $4,000 hotel. I don't think we can afford that right now, actually.
We managed to get the economy back on track and pay back all our debts.
Okay. So, we're doing okay. Abysmal relations. What is wrong with the U.S. here? Why do they hate us so much? Why are we so good with... I guess it's because we're giving free food and stuff out. All right, we're going to have to do an edict to throw a bone to the U.S. How do we do that? Not to the... Oh, you know what? It is 9 o'clock. So we're just
What's up, gangsters?
We're just gonna have to leave that for next time.
Oh. We don't have time for Amanda. Get out.
I'm trying to avoid the U.S. Invading us.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Excuse me,
Export.
I'm trying to save the entire United States right now. Wow.
Sorry.
He's not denying it, guys.
Not denying what?
That he would want me to go.
I don't want you to go.
Kicked out of my own bedroom, even though it's after 9 o'clock.
I don't want you to go. Alright. We're going to put in this mine here. We are going to connect a road to it. And then we're going to call it a night. Very long, awkward road. There we go. The worst road ever made, but a road nonetheless. There we go. Oh boy. We got more immigrants to Tropico. Okay, now we can build more tourist stuff for next time.
But for now, bye-bye.
Yeah, for now, bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Get out. You're doing too much.
I did not say you're doing too much.
What did you guys talk about while I was gone?
James keeps wanting me to plant tomatoes, and I keep telling him it's not something you can do in the game.
Why tomatoes? So you can make marinara sauce for pepperoni rolls?
Probably something to that effect.
You wait.
Didn't tell me to start growing hogs, though, so who knows?
Hey guys, I don't know if Zach told you this or not. Probably not, but he told me I couldn't have a cow.
Yeah, I said don't have a cow, Amanda.
No, like he won't let us
No,
get a
no,
cow.
that's what I said. Don't have a cow.
He said we can't get a cow when we get a house. Because he's mean.
Oh, 'cause I'm mean. It's just a big old meanie.
He never lets me get any pets.
So yeah, we're not doing great with the U.S.
What was that?
Not doing great with the U.S.
We're not staying up all night.
I have some good news, sir.
I have to go back to work, and somebody has to take something.
I know.
Really?
I know. I will.
Do we know?
Okay. Yep. Shutting her down. I'm gonna save the game. Well, I don't know. I don't even know what to call this one. We'll just say
Born in the USA.
Communist Revolution in a video game.
Oh. Finally got my wife off my video. Oh, guess what?
Because that's what we'll probably call the series. What's up?
We can't go to Piggy Ate My Pizza tomorrow.
Why not?
Because they're not open.
Oh. Well, that's a bummer. Why are they not open Monday?
Because they're closed Monday.
Oh, they're not open Monday because they're closed Monday.
Because it's a brewery and they're open all weekend. They need a day off. Alright, so just keep... This is what I deal with, folks. What are you laughing at?
So I gotta stop sharing that screen because that's making me go cross-eyed. Pizza is good like pepperoni rolls. Yeah, that's very true, James. Yeah. Let's see. Who can we raid tonight?
No one.
No one? Okay, I'm not allowed to raid anyone, so sorry, James. You'll just have to find another cool streamer another way. Because Amanda says no. So you can blame her.
Don't turn James on me.
Thanks for coming, you guys. Yeah, probably be another week before we stream again. But until then,
It's the house buying world, folks.
it's we gotta subservient to that house buying grind.
Yeah, and we love you guys, and it's our anniversary tomorrow, and it's my birthday Thursday, so we're kind of busy.
You were showing feet on stream, by the way.
I-
You need to move that out of the way. So.
It's not like that kind of foot.
Hey, I'm not gonna take the chance. It's not like I got Hassan money to fight something like that.
Ew.